Hey family, welcome back to my video. Today we will see, what if Naruto was kidnapped Anko and had harem LL night? Part 2. Before we start, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the original author of this story for granting us permission to use it in our YouTube video. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. The author's creation and the original story's link in the descriptions. Please do check that first. Now enjoy the video. The new season for Stargate Atlantis has begun. It went very well in my opinion until the end. Why the hell are they getting rid of Carter? Oh wait, the IOA is composed of idiots and power-hungry politicians. I wonder how long the city will remain standing or if there will be a mutiny. Also, I finally saw the 4th Naruto movie. All I can say was it was good. A summon battle would have made it better. I mean, we always see Naruto using the same jutsus in every movie, and it gets a little boring when you can predict how it will end. Naruto hits the bad guy with an altered Rasengan. It happens every time. Some of you have asked how this story will change now that we know the truth about Itachi and the Uchiha massacre. Not much. And on another note, just because Sasuke made a few new jutsus doesn't mean he just started working on fire manipulation. Kakashi could have started on that during their after-hours training sessions. Did you ever think of that? Let's rock. Flashback. Danzo was fuming mad. Itachi had been ordered to kill off his clan in secret for the sake of the village. He could have used this incident against the kind-hearted Hokage and overthrow him. Then, after he became Hokage, he could blame Kyumo for what had happened that night. Then he could begin the conquest of all the over-shinobi villages. He would even go as far as to make the Uzumaki boy a weapon like the one he had heard about in Suna. It would have been so perfect. Yet Itachi had failed. He couldn't kill his own little brother. Itachi had gone to the Hokage and told him everything that had happened and begged the old fool to protect his brother. Sarutobi had agreed, and the truth about that night was covered up. Itachi had been labeled a traitor so that the village wouldn't be torn apart by mistrust and hate towards those in charge. What made Danzo even angrier was that Itachi had gone as far as blackmailing him to make sure that Sasuke would be safe from him. Suddenly, Danzo sensed two people walking towards him. Soon he saw his co-conspirators, Hamaru and Koharu. "What do you two want?" he asked. "We have been thinking on how to turn this whole event to our advantage," said Koharu. "The people do not know that an Uchiha has the potential to summon the Kyubi," continued Hamaru. "Therefore, they did not have the same concerns as we did, nor did they know of their plot to take over the village." "This I already know," said Danzo. "Get to the point." Both elders nodded. "Right now, the old Uchiha clan is gone," said Koharu. "Sasuke will most likely want to rebuild it. This will be our chance to take full advantage of his situation. If we can make him indebted and completely loyal to the village, then his children will be as well." "This all started because of Uchiha Madara," said Hamaru. "Before Uchiha Sasuke returns to the Uchiha district, we will have already gone through the entire area to erase the truth about him and why he fought Senju Hashirama. We will make sure that he will become a powerful shinobi and one day Hokage." "Are you insane?" asked Danzo. "Not at all," said Hamaru. "This all originally started over a dispute as to who would become Hokage. You do remember, right? Namake's Minato and Orochimaru were not the only two candidates to become the Yondaime," said Koharu. "Uchiha Fugaku was also a candidate. He had no chance considering who the other two were, of course. However, he assumed that he should have been named Hokage after Minato-sama's death. However, Sarutobi took that role back and refused to hand it over to him. Uchiha Madara also betrayed the village because he did not become Hokage," said Hamaru. "Are you seeing a connection?" "Yes," said Danzo. "Never trust an Uchiha." "No," said Hamaru. "We should have allowed it since their philosophy is closer to ours. Thinking back, imagine what this village would have been like if we didn't have such soft-hearted fools running it." "This is a bad idea," said Danzo. "Sasuke will follow in his family's footsteps and betray the village." "This is not just our decision," said Koharu. "The rest of the council agrees that we should do everything in our power to restore the Uchiha clan. Hayashi-sama isn't into the idea of making Sasuke-san our future Hokage, but other than that he is willing to go along." "And what if someone else comes along who might be better suited for the job in the Hokage's eyes?" asked Danzo. Both elders smiled at Danzo. Saying nothing, They both turned around and walked away. End flashback. Night had finally fallen. Most of the teams had already set up their camps and preparing for sleep. Then smarter shinobi had set up traps and had one of them keeping guard. The more foolish and arrogant ones didn't. Needless to say, they wouldn't last that long. But there was one team that wasn't getting ready for sleep. That was the team that consisted of Neji, Tenten, and Lee. "All right," said Neji as he called the group's attention. "We've rested enough. Let's scout out the area and locate the other teams. Don't engage them. Just find out where they are and then meet back here." "Got it." Yeah, said Tenten as she got up. Neji may be the best gen in taking the exam as far as she knew, but he was not a people person. Once again, he had made all the plans without asking them about it. Sure, his plans were good, and they had never let them down before. Still, he could have asked them what they thought or something. Was that so much to ask? But this wasn't the place to start a fight or be difficult, so it was best just to go along. "Yash," cried Lee. "I shall do my best." Neji nodded, and all three jumped into the trees. In another part of the forest, an odd encounter was about to take place. Naruto was in the middle of a clearing, and his only light was the eerie green glow from one of the muffins Haku had given him before he went into the forest. He had spent all day looking for his two teammates. Now it was dark, and locating them would be even harder due to the lack of real light. Not to mention he was tired and hungry. "Guess I'd better set up camp," said Naruto as he bit his thumb. He then made several hand signs before yelling, "Kuchios no Jutsu." Meanwhile, Michi and his aim were close by, as they now walked through the forest. They too had spent all day looking for someone and failed. They were unaware that Hinata was already within the safety of the tower. "Damn it," yelled his aim. "Where is that girl?" "Keep your voice down, Baka," hissed Michi. "We'll find her sooner or later. Right now, we'd better make camp and start out first thing in the morning." "Great idea," said his aim with a yawn. "So, are you going to be making a clay house for us or a cottage?" Michi rolled her eyes. "We are in a fenced-in forest within a village we shouldn't be in," she said. "If I did something like that, I'm sure they would notice." "And what do you think would happen then?" "We would be caught," said his aim as she sighed disappointedly. "As long as you understand," said Michi. "So tonight we will be sleeping under the stars." His aim raised her head and looked upwards to the sky and saw nothing but clouds and tree branches. Even if there had been stars that night, they looked the same every night in her opinion. What was so great about them anyway? They were just gas-powered pinpricks that would soon die. "Maybe you could make a clay," began his aim. However, she was cut off as a cloud of smoke shot across the floor of the forest. "What the hell was that? Let's check it out," said Michi. His aim nodded, and the two of them ran in the direction that it had come from. It took them only a few seconds to find the source in what was once an empty clearing. The two girls' jaws dropped as a giant salamander the size of a two-story building occupied most of the area. Well, their jaws also dropped because situated on its back was a flashing red neon sign that said "Motel," and next to the creature's head was a flashing green sign that said "Vacancy." "I don't believe this," said his aim. "I wasn't expecting this," said Michi. "I know," agreed his aim. "Just look at how much a room costs at that place. It's a steal." Michi's face faulted at that comment. But in his aim's defense, she was right. The price per room equaled $10 in American money, if America existed in this world. Just at that moment, Naruto walked back into the clearing from the woods. "Ah, can I help you?" Naruto asked. Both girls jumped back and looked at him. As Naruto crossed his arms as he waited for them to say something, Michi began to sweat a bit. Their cover had been blown. They had been spotted, and they didn't know where the blonde's other two teammates were. For all she knew, this could be a trap of some kind. "Can we please have a room?" asked his aim. Michi twitched and then looked over at his aim. The shark girl was giving him the teary-eyed, puppy dog pout. His aim then raced over to Naruto and began to hug his leg. "Please, please, please, please. I can't stand sleeping under the stars. My partner won't make a house for us or even a cottage. The two of us have been traveling alone by ourselves, and we just need a place to spend the night." Michi slapped her face. Who would be stupid enough to fall for something like that? "I'll help you out," said a teary-eyed Naruto, causing Michi to face fault. His aim then let go of Naruto's leg, and the two of them walked over to the salamander, and soon Michi followed after them. The inside the salamander was interesting. The walls of flesh were moist and colored light pink. Almost all of the furniture was made from flesh and seemed to be a part of the creature. The only exception was the beds that were located on the second floor. The doors were also odd. Muscles opened and closed certain parts on the creature's flesh to allow access to private rooms. After his aim had paid Naruto for the room, he went off to give it to his summoned salamander and let the two girls do some exploring and pick out which room they would like. "This is so cool," said his aim with stars in her eyes. Michi grabbed his aim by her shoulders and stared into the shark girl's eyes. "We are inside a summoned creature," said Michi. "No telling what kind of freak its summoner is. For all we know, he could be some sicko who will try to cut out our organs while we sleep." "Well," said his aim, "as long as he's not expecting a date or anything like that." Michi gave his aim a deadpan look. "Your mother dropped you too many times on the head, didn't she?" asked Michi. His aim shrugged. "Ah," said a voice behind the two girls, causing their eyes to go wide. They slowly turned around and saw that Naruto had been standing several feet behind them. "How long have you been standing there?" demanded Michi. "Long enough," replied Naruto. "You don't have to worry. Before I ran into the two of you, I had summoned some sensor salamanders. They'll alert me to anyone coming into the area. Also, this salamander won't open its mouth to anyone other than me or is willing to pay. Even if someone did get in, the doors here lock, so you don't have to worry about any sickos getting in." "Is that right?" asked Michi as she laughed nervously and sweat dropped. "I have a question," said his aim as she raised her hand as if she were in a classroom. "Actually, I have two. One, how do the doors lock? Also, are you going to eat that muffin?" "All you have to get is say lock to lock the door," said Naruto. "The muscles that move the opening to your door will then freeze and keep the door closed. To unlock it, just say unlock. As for your second question, are you referring to the one glowing in my pouch?" It was true. Anyone could see the glow coming from Naruto's weapon pouch where he had placed the muffin. The glow also gave away the shape of a muffin. His aim vigorously nodded her head. With a sigh, Naruto took out the muffin and tossed it over to the crazy shark girl. As soon as it was close enough, his aim jumped up and caught it in her mouth and began to eat it. "Will she be okay?" asked Michi as she took a few steps backwards. "Depends how strong her stomach is," replied Naruto. Dawn was about an hour away. The forest was covered with dew, and the forest floor had a light mist. The nocturnal creatures were returning to their homes, while other animals were waking up. But some of the most dangerous creatures were already wide awake. In fact, several of them were looking at the giant salamander through a scope. The most menacing at the moment was the team from IWA. They had been tracking him since the exam started, and they had finally come to the end of the trail. They could only assume that Naruto was inside the creature. "Are you sure he's in there?" asked Bakken. "Of course I'm sure," said Risho. "Now, let's do this like I planned." Bakken and Gamma nodded. Gamma went out first. He jumped from tree to tree as he made a dash for the summoned creature. Along the way, he passed by a salamander with 6 red spots on its back that was clinging on a tree. A dim light was coming out of the spots, and once Gamma passed through the light's path, he vanished in a cloud of smoke. However, he didn't return back to where he had originally come from, but appeared in Naruto's room. "Naruto-sama," said the salamander. "Someone is heading for you." Naruto said nothing as he lay in bed. With a sigh, the salamander hit Naruto in the head with its tail. "Wadash," said Naruto as he slowly woke up. He looked over at the salamander next to him. "Is it morning?" "Well, yes it is," said the salamander to the boy who was only half awake. "But that's not what—" "Good," interrupted Naruto as he made a seal. "Time to start looking for the rest of my team." Outside, Gamma was right in front of the giant salamander. Now he had to figure out a way to get Naruto out of the creature. Before he could think of anything, the salamander was engulfed in a cloud of white smoke and vanished, leaving Naruto and 2 girls. One of the girls looked half dead, while the other suddenly woke up as she realized that she was no longer inside the motel salamander. "I asked for a wake-up call, but I didn't expect it to be like this," said Michi as she got up. His aim only moaned in her sleep. Michi looked at her with a bit of disgust. "That's what you get when you eat strange things." Michi then picked his aim up and put her on her shoulder, and the two of them left the clearing. "Not even a goodbye," said Naruto as he rubbed his eyes while yawning. Then Risho jumped next to Gamma and caused Naruto to get an adrenaline rush. Well, well, said Risho with a cocky attitude. So you came out for us? This will make things much easier. If you were looking for a scroll, said Naruto as he narrowed his eyes. I don't have one. Who said we wanted a scroll? Said Risho. We were sent here to kill you, so I can have its revenge. What did I do? Asked Naruto. I've never even met an IW Nin. Gamma chuckled. You mean you don't know? Said Gamma as he took out some paintbrushes. Too bad you will die never knowing the truth then. Slowly he began to apply makeup to his body. You should blame your village for never telling you the truth about your origins. It doesn't matter, said Risho. Even if you knew, we would still try to kill you. But it is a bit sad that you don't know. Oh well. He then began to make several hand signs, and when he was finished 4 pillars of earth shot out of ground. Naruto took a step back as the pillars began to circle him. In case you're wondering, you're not the only person who is a master of his element. Let me show you why I'm an earth master. Shura Nindotoi. As soon as he called out his jutsu, the earth covered him and took form. Soon Risho had a helmet, arm and leg guards, and a breastplate. You should have stayed inside your lizard, said Gamma as his makeup began to increase his strength. I summoned salamanders, baka, not lizards, said Naruto as he got into a stance. And if you think that a makeup-wearing freak and a dirt-covered team can beat me, then you are sadly mistaken. I think you have forgotten something, said Risho as his eyes moved to look at the sideline of the forest. Teams here are made of 3 people. Bakken then jumped down from the tree where they had been hiding in and landed on the ground. He then began to prepare for his special jutsu. He began to tighten up his muscles and slowly began to sweat. After a minute or so, his entire body was covered in sweat, and then he yelled, Hakuin no Kiri. From Bakken's body shot a white mist that blocked all vision. But that wasn't all it did. There was also a powerful odor that smelled like a smelly gym filled the area as well. It was so bad that Naruto had to cover his nose. The next thing that Naruto knew was something like a whirlwind shooting towards where he was standing. Acting quickly, Naruto shot up into the air. However, he had done exactly what his opponents had wanted him to do. The next thing he knew was being punched in the face. As he fell backward, someone else was punching much harder in the gut, and Naruto crashed into the ground hard. Slowly, Naruto crawled up onto his feet, but he was knocked down once again by something that felt like a giant burning rock. After that hit him, Naruto was thrown rolling on the ground for several yards. For some reason, I thought he would be better, said Bakken with a light chuckle. I'm not dead yet, said Naruto as he got on his feet. We can fix that, said Risho. As long as we stick to my tactics, we can win any battle. I bet you have already figured out that we 3 can see within it while you can't see your hand in front of your face. I don't think so, said Naruto. I bet that first guy who punched me made that mist, and I can see why he would have a jutsu like that. His punch was so weak that I barely felt anything. What? Yelled Bakken. I hit you so hard you should have a concussion. Naruto just laughed. You're right, said Naruto with a grin. Compared to the beatings that I have gotten my whole life, that was just a love tap. And too bad for you, I don't swing that way. Even this mist is weak. And I bet that second hit came from Makeup Boy. I'm only guessing, but I think that his strength comes from his makeup. If I'm right, that means that in reality, he's a weakling. And that last attack, well, he's hardly a master of anything. Why, you little? Yelled all 3 of the IWA Nins at the same time. Then, all at once, the 3 of them ran towards Naruto and prepared to use the same attack again. That was their mistake as Naruto began to make hand signs. When he was finished, Naruto turned in Bakken's direction and yelled, Futon, Daitapa, sending a powerful wave of air in his direction. Bakken, who was caught off guard, was thrown several dozen yards backwards and his mist was dispelled. The next thing that Bakken knew was Naruto hovering over him with a smirk. How? Asked Bakken. Naruto's smirk became even wider. You may have cut off my sense of sight and smell, said Naruto, but I could still hear you all. I was taunting you all so that I could figure out where you all were. And now, Naruto brought back his fist and then slammed it into Bakken's chest so hard that he could hear ribs breaking. Let's finish this. Go to hell, yelled Gamma as he ran towards Naruto with his paintbrushes raised. I'll take away everything you have, Gamma closed in on Naruto and raised his paintbrushes to seal away Naruto's movement and chakra, but Naruto was faster. In the blink of an eye, Naruto moved behind Gamma and kicked him in the ass while flying. "Get up, Gamma," yelled Risho. "We started out 3 against 1, and now it's 2 against 1. We should be able to take him easily." "Don't worry," said Gamma as he got up. "My powers will take away his ability to fly." Gamma turned around and got the shock of his life. While he and Risho had been talking, Naruto had taken out his Raijin and was now flying at Gamma with his sword of lightning poised and ready to strike. Gamma tried to dodge, but it was too late and Naruto was flying at him too quickly. Risho watched as the Raijin sliced right through Gamma and began to electrocute him from the inside out. "Worthless grunts," said Risho as he watched Gamma fall to the ground. "Looks like I'll have to kill you myself." "I don't believe you," said Naruto as he put away the Raijin. "After seeing me take down 2 of your teammates, you still think you can win. Don't you even care that they might be dead?" "Why should I?" demanded Risho. "Should I be all teary-eyed and call out their names after they lost so pathetically? I would never waste a single tear on them. They were just pawns so I can get what I want. Fame? Once I kill you, I will go down in history. If that's the way your village thinks, then it is no wonder they lost the war," said Naruto as he began to spin his arm around. "Shut up, Uzumaki," yelled Risho as he made some hand signs. "You don't know anything. Shura nendotoi." Earth began to cover Risho again and added more earth to his armor. It looked the same, only now there were spikes on it. Risho then charged to tackle Naruto like a boulder, but Naruto was now running towards him with his own attack. "Let me show you what it means to be a master of your element," said Naruto. "Senpyukin." With that, Naruto punched Risho in the chest with his attack. What followed was a large explosion and pieces of Risho flying high into the sky. Slowly, the cloud of dirt began to calm down and Naruto stood in front of a small crater. "You weren't even worth it." While Naruto's back was turned, Bakken was slowly limping towards Naruto with a sharp rock in his hand. Once Bakken was close enough, he began to raise it above his head so he could kill Naruto. But before it got halfway up, Bakken was sliced into a dozen or so pieces in a zigzag pattern. Naruto turned around just in time to see the pieces fall to the earth. At first, Naruto jumped backwards in shock. He knew he didn't do this. Then he looked down at the pile of flesh and saw a wire that had churka infused in and around the flesh of Bakken. Naruto moved to touch it when it suddenly flew back into the tree line. Naruto turned his head to look in its direction, and that's when he heard it clapping. Then, slowly, a figure came out of the woods while clapping his hands. "That was a nice show," said Sex as he stopped clapping. "Now that your warm-up is over, how about a real challenge?" "Damn, this took so long. For a while I was sick and couldn't go near the computer because I was afraid I'd throw up on it. Then I got stuck for a while. Well, next time will be Sex versus Naruto and Anko versus the Odonins." Chapter 16. Well, I have to say that I'm disappointed in how Smallville started this season. I mean, after all the fuss they made last season about a device that could control Clark, and it turns out to be the off switch to his powers. What a letdown. I was hoping that it would be something like summoning someone who could stop Clark like Green Lantern. At least Lana is gone, so Clark can get things into focus. Naruto was good. Naruto has read Jiraiya's book and is getting closer to finishing his training with Nature Chakra. Sasuke is proving that all he cares about is revenge, no matter who it is. And the Raikage is going to be putting his foot down on Sasuke. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed. Let's rock. In the village, the sun was just starting to rise. Most of its inhabitants were still asleep. Those who were up were training, opening up their shops, or were on the night guard. Yet there was one person who was none of these. Hyuga Hanabi was up and silently crossing the Hyuga compound as she made her way to the clan library. Ever since she saw that Hinata person, Hanabi had been unable to get her out of her head. She had double-checked the clan listings and found that there were none in the main house that were close to her age or even looked like her. Then Hanabi began to look through old pictures and letters she could find to see if there were any clues. The only thing she was able to find out was that many pictures of her mother were missing. Hanabi stopped in front of the wooden doors of what looked like an old root cellar. She opened them and made her way down a flight of stairs until she came to a steel door. She opened it and then entered the second level of the clan library. The library was a two-level structure that was underground and out of sight to protect its secrets. The second floor was basically a catwalk along the wall with books and scrolls on the shelves. These books ranged from history to Ica paradise. But Hanabi's destination was on the first floor. The first floor held topics like jutsus, family records, and a special section for main branch members only. Also, in the middle were tables where a person could sit and read for a while. Clan law forbids anyone, even the clan head, from tampering with anything on that level. It was even forbidden to take anything off of that level. This made it the perfect place to look for information. Hanabi made her way down the next set of stairs as quietly as she could. However, as soon as she came to the ground floor, she was spotted by the librarian. He was an old branch member with a long beard and a slightly hunchback. If Hanabi remembered correctly, he was her great uncle. "Ah, Hanabi-sama," he said with kind smile. "How nice to see you." "You're up early," said Hanabi as she cursed her luck. This was supposed to be a secret. "The love of knowledge knows no opening and closing hours," said her great uncle. "Now, how can I help you?" Hanabi thought about it for a moment. "What the hell?" she thought after a minute. He was here, and he might be able to help her find what she needed faster. "I need to find someone," said Hanabi. "Then unless you were looking for me, you will find no one," he replied. "No," replied Hanabi. I need information on a Hyuga girl. She doesn't have the seal on her forehead, so she must be from the main house. Yet, I have only seen her once, and that was on the street. Somehow she seems so familiar. I guess it's because she looks like my Ka-san." At this, the old librarian's eyes widened. "Her name won't be Hinata, would it?" he asked. "Yes," said Hanabi quickly. Now her heart was racing. She could now get the answers that she needed to know for reasons beyond her. But the sad smile on her great uncle's face put a halt to all of that. "I'm afraid that I cannot help you," he replied. "That information was made forbidden by your father." "Why?" demanded Hanabi. "What did she do wrong?" "To Hayashi-sama," said the old man, "it was that she was simply alive." Hanabi couldn't believe this. Did her father hate this Hinata person so much that he did everything in his power to erase her from the clan's history? "Is there anything you can tell me?" she asked. The old man stroked his bread for a bit while humming before he answered. "Well now," he said, "all the official records are forbidden. Yet, I could tell you some unofficial things." At that, Hanabi's heart began to race again. Anything would be helpful. "Let me see. I got one. Hinata used to come down here all the time." "What did she do?" asked Hanabi quickly. "Did she take something out of the library? Did she look at something she wasn't supposed to?" Her uncle laughed. No, he said. "She was always well behaved. She sometimes used the books down here to press flowers, but not that many people minded." "Oh," said Hanabi. "Hinata was a very kind and considerate person," said her uncle. "Her mother loved her from the bottom of her heart. I know that if she were still alive today, she would be heartbroken. But I'm a little glad she was able to get away." Hanabi gave him a confused look. Hayashi-sama would have damaged her had she stayed. She was so eager to please everyone and make sure everyone around her was happy, you see. But the only thing she got from Hayashi-sama were harmful words and looks full of disgust. I bet it tore her up inside. That is all I can tell you. "I see," said Hanabi as she got up. She slowly made her way out of the library. She was a bit disappointed with the information that she got. She had been hoping for more useful information. So far she sounded like a saint or something like that. Yet, now that she thought about it, she might have gotten some useful information. Hinata had been around her father a lot before she left. Maybe Neji might know something. Or maybe there were other records of her elsewhere. Now that she thought about that, she might have been a recent graduate from the academy. "You know," said the librarian after he heard Hanabi leave, "your sister would have said goodbye. In Aim no Kuni, they have a way of dealing with orphans. Those who live on the streets are the lucky ones. They live by eating out of trash cans and begging for food. They sleep in the sewers and rat-infested dumpsters. And despite these things, they are the lucky ones. This is because they have a greater chance at living past the age of 6. There are no orphanages or foster homes in Aim. Instead, there are places called living toy shops. Their children are sold cheaply for whatever the customer wants. Few buy these children to raise as part of the family. The people who go to places like these have other uses for children. Sweet shops, test subjects, and even for the whims of people like Orochimaru. The children stay at places like this until the age of 6. At the end of every year, all the children who are 6 years old are sold to the army. A high-ranking general comes to pick them up. They are not to be integrated into the army, but to be used in war games. Things like targets or to check for landmines. Perhaps now you know why the land is always crying. The children are told about their future from a young age. In fact, they are first told this on the day they are given their number. They don't get names, just numbers in different languages. When asked why they don't have real names, they are told that they won't be around long enough to need real ones. They are simply products in the eyes on the adults. It was from people like them that Sex got his name. This was the world he was born into. Had it not been for Hanzo, he would have been killed by now. But he lives on, fighting. Why does he fight? How was he saved for a grim fate? That, I'm sorry to say, is a story for a different day. But now you know a little more about Sex, Elf, and Zolf. That was a good fight, said Sex as he slowly stopped clapping. Too bad they were arrogant fools. Had they been smarter, they might have lasted longer. What are you doing here? Demanded Naruto. I think that would be obvious, replied Sex as he reached behind his back to grab the folded weapon that was attached to it. As he pulled it out, it straightened itself out, so it looked like some kind of staff weapon. At the ends of it were blades with one side sharp, and the other looking like a saw. Sex held his weapon out in front of him so Naruto could see it. Like it? It's called the Titan Blade. I had this custom made so it's no ordinary weapon. It's made of a special metal that never rusts, is non-magnetic, and won't conduct electricity. I can't wait to see how it fares against your Raijin. Let me guess, said Naruto with an annoyed look on his face. You are going to kill me for some reason that I'm sure someone else did. Hell no, said Sex, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. That's not my style. If I have a grudge against a person, then it's with that person and no one else. And if they die before I get my chance, then that's life and I get over it. Sex then pointed his Titan blade at Naruto. Hanzo-sama has taken a great deal of interest in you, and I don't like it. He let you sign his contract and gave you a title. Now I'm going to prove that you, an outsider, don't deserve that honor. Don't you think that you're getting mad at the wrong person? Yelled Naruto. No, I don't, yelled Sex as he ran towards Naruto. As he did, he began to spin the Titan blade so fast it was like a blur. Once Sex was in striking range, Sex began to shift the blade from his right side to his left side and then back again. Naruto was forced to move backwards quickly to avoid the attack, not knowing what was behind him. After a short while, the back of Naruto's foot hit the side of a half-buried rock, which caused him to lose his footing. At this, Sex grinned. Using the momentum that he had been building, Sex crouched down and then made a sweeping motion aimed at Naruto's legs. However, Naruto was able to shoot up and avoid the sweep. Then Naruto a kick right on the side of Sex's head. Sadly, though, Sex saw the attack coming and blocked the kick with his forearm. Swearing under his breath, Naruto backed away from Sex for distance. That's impressive, said Sex as he got up. He watched as Naruto floated about a foot off the ground with his arms crossed. I can at least see why you were called the Kaze Shu. That Kekkei Genkai of yours is truly amazing. This isn't a Kekkei Genkai, said Naruto. Then a thoughtful look appeared on his face. At least I don't think it is. I really don't know that much about my family, so I can't say for sure. All I really know is that I always had a talent for the wind. What you are seeing here is me wrapping the wind around my body to fly. Believe me, it has gone a long way since I first started. Back then I would have to use a hand sign just to change direction. Are you an orphan? Asked Sex. Naruto nodded. I see then. We share that in common. And here I thought you were the prized member of some big fancy clan. Nope, said Naruto. But even if I did belong to a big clan, I would still do things my way even if they don't make sense to other people. Better to be messy on your own than to be messy under some old guy, right? Yes, said Sex. Why give someone else credit for your hard work? This is it, thought Sex as he grinned at Naruto. I'm fighting a worthy opponent that is making my heart race. Back home, every genin I have fought used cheap tricks to try and win. Now I am fighting someone who understands that the only true way to handle a problem is to attack it head on. I'll fight him and win. Then Hanzo, Sama will notice me as the best. With that thought, Sex crouched down again while he positioned his Titan blade behind him. Let me show you an attack I created by myself. I call it Sexter Riff. With the attack called out, Sex leapt towards Naruto. As he went through the air, Sex began to twist his body around while the Titan blade seemed to move around his body. Sex would do a somersault, and the blade would travel from behind him, between his legs, and then across his body. Then Sex would do a kick spin, and the blade would spin around an arm or a leg. Not knowing how to counter this attack, Naruto just lifted himself in the air to just miss Sex trying to slash his chest. Naruto then let himself on one of the blades as Sex kept his attack going. The blonde had planned of kicking him, but Sex repositioned his body above the blade and used to deliver a spinning kick aimed at Naruto's legs that connected. Naruto was then knocked to the Titan blade and onto the ground on his back. Naruto groaned due to the dull pain he felt on his back and legs. Then as he stared at the sky, Sex appeared above him with the Titan blade ready to pierce Naruto's chest. Running through the hand signs, Naruto yelled, "Futon, de Tapa." Suddenly, a great wind hit Sex and sent him flying into a tree so hard that it left an imprint. Naruto didn't know how high Sex was, but if he had to guess, it was pretty damn high. Naruto then slowly got back onto his feet when he noticed something. It was a leaf that must have been knocked off a tree due to Sex's impact. Then, without warning, the leaf split in half. Squinting his eyes at where it had happened, Naruto was able to make out a thin thread of chakra. Looking around, Naruto saw that he was now surrounded by these threads. Then Elf and Zolf came into view. The chakra thread seemed to be coming out of their fingers. "We got him, Sex, and we got him!" yelled Zolf as she jumped up and down. Sex said nothing. He stepped out of the imprint and onto the base of the tree. He then leapt off of the tree and landed on his legs and free arm, as he hadn't let go of the Titan blade. He looked Zolf and then at Elf before a look of anger appeared on his face. "Baka," he snarled. "This is my fight. How dare you interfere in it? And I always thought that you two always avoided a fight." "True," said Elf. "That's because we're not as bloodthirsty as you are. But when we are guaranteed to win, we'll make an exception." "Sex-kun, now you can kill him while he's contained," said Zolf. "I don't like it," growled Sex. "Go on and try," said Naruto, getting everyone's attention. Then a smile appeared on his face. "That is if you really think that I'm contained." Sex stared at Naruto. What could he be thinking? There's no way he can get out of the web those two twits wove. Is he trying to bluff me or something? Sex then grinned evilly as something inside him told him that the fun was just starting. In another part of the forest, Anko had made camp inside the base of a hollow tree. Sasuke was still asleep, but every now and then he would start screaming. This made Anko very nervous. His screaming could alert others to their location, and she didn't need the extra stress. She was still worried about Naruto, who was still missing. Not to mention they had no scrolls, so the odds were higher that they were going to be failing this exam. Also, she hadn't slept all night and was hungry, so she was a bit irritated. Okay, she was ticking time bomb that would go off at any time. Then, suddenly, 3 Odo 9s appeared in the clearing in front of the tree. There was a teen that looked like he was covered in bandages from head to toe and wearing a shirt with extra long sleeves. There was also a cocky-looking boy and a girl with long dark hair, but neither of them stood out like the mummy wannabe. They stood there for a moment and seemed to be waiting for a trap or something. "Mitarashi Anko," said the mummy teen after a moment. "We know you are there, so there is no point in hiding. We are here to talk, not to fight. It is about an offer which we are sure you will want to hear. I urge you to consider." Anko closed her eyes and considered her options. Right now, she was still tired from yesterday due to her not having slept or eaten since yesterday. Add to the fact that she was outnumbered 3-1. Maybe if she had been able to get something to eat or had even taken a nap, she would have stood a much better chance. All she could do now was to try and stall them and hope that Sasuke woke up in time to give her a hand. At the very least, she might be able to get some information out of them. With that in mind, she opened her eyes and walked out of her hiding place. "All right, I'm here," said Anko once she stood before them. "My name is Kinyuta Dosu," said Dosu. He then indicated to his teammates. "This is Abomi Zaku and Tsuchikin. We work for her. I know you work for Orochimaru Ojizen, said Anko. Just get to the point. Why, you little? Began Zaku. However, Dosu raised a hand to silence his hot-headed teammate. I just thought that we should conduct this as professionally as possible, said Dosu as he gave Anko a once-over with his single visible eye. It seems I was mistaken. Very, said Anko. Then let us get to the point, said Dosu. Anko-san, you have been invited by your grandfather to join us. At that, Anko's eyes widened. You seem surprised. Our master was impressed with your skills and contacted us to give you this invitation. He said that while you remain here, you will never reach your full potential. Also, he wants to get to know the last member of his family better. So, what do you say? I'll do it, said Anko. When hell freezes over. It is a great honor to be chosen by Orochimaru-sama himself, you bitch, said Kin. How dare you? Shut up, Kin, snarled Dosu. Kin looked hesitant, but did as she was told. Then Dosu turned his attention back on Anko. Perhaps you need more time. Just think about it. To be trained by a member of the Sannin and a fellow snake summoner. To be taught jutsus that this weak little village could never dream of. To be given a power that is unlike any other in this world. He would even be willing to allow you to take with you your friends if you so desired. Again, no, said Anko. What about the blonde? Said Dosu, causing Anko's eyes to widen. Orochimaru did a bit of research into you and found that you are rather close to Uzumaki Naruto. In fact, he believes that you are in love with him. Shut it, growled Anko as she clenched her fists. However, you aren't the only one who has feelings for him, continued Dosu. There's that loser of a Hyuga who hangs around him as well. It must be hard trying to get some alone time when he is friends with your romantic rival. If you join with us, you could take Uzumaki-san with you and keep him all to yourself. Not a bad idea, right? I will admit that it is tempting, said Anko. I hate it that she's always around. I hate that she has feelings for the same guy as me. And I hate how Naruto-kun doesn't seem to notice. If I took up this offer, then I could finally have him all to myself. But I would only have his body, not his heart. And I'm going to win it on my own. She then glared at Dosu. So if you think that you can use my feelings to get me to join up with the team who betrayed him family and village, then you are dead wrong. Very well then, said Dosu with a sigh. We were told it was a long shot anyways. However, if you were to say no, we were ordered to kill Uchiha Sasuke. Now, will you move out of the way? It is the will of our master, is that you be given a chance to leave this place alive. Again, no, said Anko. I need that asshole in order to pass this part of the exam. You kill him, and I fail. Also, he's my comrade or something to that effect. At that, the Otonin's sweat dropped. Very well then, said Dosu as a kunai appeared in his hand. In a quick motion, he swung his weapon at Anko's throat. Cold steel hit, warm flesh, and then poof. Anko vanished in a cloud of smoke and was replaced with a small purple snake. Before the three knew it, Anko was above them with her sword ready for action. She swung it with as much strength as she could at Dosu's head. Sadly, the three Genins sensed the attack coming and moved out of the way in time. Anko landed with a thud. She was breathing hard and was tired. What was worse was that her enemies knew it. Dosu came after her and swung his fist at her. She stepped back to avoid the hit. However, shortly after she did, her world became fuzzy. Moments later, she fell on her hands and knees and began to chuff up blood. The next thing she knew was a stinging sensation on her back. She turned around and saw several Senbon needles sticking in her back. She turned her head back around and was going to try to stand up, but Zaka grabbed her head and began to lift it up. You really shouldn't have insulted Orochimaru-sama, he said. Now let's see how you look without a head. Sexter Ongrif, 6th attack. Sorry, this is a bit short. I had more written, but I lost the whole thing due to a computer problem. Plus I have homework and stuff to do. Oh well, how will the fight between Sex and Naruto turn out? Will Naruto be able to survive? Will he be able to save Anko? Will I ever get tired of these cliffhangers? Why am I asking you these questions? Also, should Kin live? Chapter 17. Well, here I am. Hope you are all ready for this exciting chapter. I know I am. The last couple of chapters in Naruto were amazing. Pain is showing us what his other bodies can really do, and we are coming closer to his secret. Killer Bee is alive, and I couldn't be happier about that. Personally, I thought that was a lame way for him to be defeated, and it turns out he wasn't. And Naruto has completed his sage training. Maybe soon we'll see that jutsu that he was working on. Let's rock. Michi and his aim had just landed on a branch near the clearing when the fighting had started. Now, they had never intended on reaching this point. After the Salamander Hotel had vanished, Michi had dragged her sick, in more ways than one, teammate out of that clearing and headed off randomly. Now, after several minutes of running nonstop at speeds no normal genin could possibly travel at, they were above the fight between Anko and the Odonines. In Michi's opinion, it wasn't much of a fight, 3-1. Looks like this is going to be over soon, said Michi as she glanced at her partner. His aim looked a bit more green than blue at the moment, and that couldn't be a good thing. I hope you learned your lesson. I guess, said his aim weakly. But in my defense, it tasted pretty good. It just made me sick as hell after grown words. Michi said nothing to that. She sighed, and then turned her head back in the direction of the fight below them. The Odonine holding the purple-haired girl's head gave it a squeeze, causing said girl to cry out in pain. Michi clenched her fists as she watched. There was nothing she hated more than a guy bullying a girl. And as much as she wanted to get involved, she knew that they couldn't risk it. They had a mission to fulfill. Time to die, bitch, said Zaku as he prepared to blow off Anko's head. But, just as he was about to do that, a green blur entered the clearing while yelling, Konoha. The next thing the three Odonines knew was that they were kicked in the chest with enough power to send them several yards away from Anko. When they got back up, they saw their opponent and sweat dropped. It was Rock Lee standing in his fighting stance. Anko looked up and let out a low groan. It wasn't that she was ungrateful or anything. It was just that it was Lee. Damn it, she thought. Why couldn't it be Naruto-kun? Then again, it would be embarrassing as hell if he saw me like this. Lee's probably going to be going on about youth and talking loud and shit. At least it wasn't Sasuke. That team could most likely insult B and say I was just a weak girl. Kiba would blab this out to everyone along with Ino. Maybe this isn't so bad. Back in the tree, Michi was getting creeped out. As soon as the green-clad wonder entered the clearing, his aim began to change. First, her skin regained its usual blue color. Then her eyes took the shape of beating hearts. As she stared at Lee, a small trickle of drool appeared from her mouth. "Oh, Cammy," said the rejuvenated his aim. "That hair, those eyebrows, that spandex. He's perfect. I think I'm going to be sick," deadpan Michi. "What are you doing here?" demanded Dosu. "She isn't your teammate. Why help her?" "Because," said Lee loudly, "she is a shinobi of this village and a comrade. It would be unyouthful for me to allow you to kill her for not selling out her teammate to save herself. Here comes the headache," thought Anko as she lay on the ground. "Kawaii," squealed his aim. "I even love the way he talks. Please seek help," groaned Michi. However, his aim couldn't hear her teammate as she was already making wedding plans in her head. Back in the clearing, Dosa charged at Lee. The Odonine didn't like having to deal with all these distractions. If Orochimaru hadn't ordered them to talk to Anko, first they never would have. They might have even completed their mission by now. Dosa had, of course, wondered why Orochimaru had asked them to do it in the first place. Perhaps he had a soft spot in his heart for the girl since they were family. Or maybe he was just curious to see what her choice would be. Whatever the reason, now he had to deal with these Konoha flies. Lee stood his ground as the Dosu headed for him. Then, Dosu pulled back his right arm, revealing some kind of metal guard attached to it. Lee acted quickly and reached into the ground and pulled up a large root to block the attack. Dosu's fist hit the root and caused no other damage. "I saw your attack when you used it on Anko-san," said Lee. "While you didn't hit her with your attack, you were somehow able to cause damage. There is more going on than just a punch." "Maybe," said Dosu with a cocky tone. "But what can you do about it?" Lee said nothing as he began to unwrap the bandages on his arms. He knew that he shouldn't use this jutsu, but he had to finish this fight quickly. That was the best way to deal with an opponent who used attacks that you couldn't understand. He knew the risks and was willing to take them to help out a comrade, just like Guy would do. Dosa stared at the green genin as he lowered his arms. He was about to move to attack again when Lee vanished and reappeared below him to deliver a kick to his lower jaw that sent him flying into the air. Lee then used his arm to launch himself into the air and get behind Dosu. "This is what I can do," said Lee as his bandages began to wrap around Dosu. "With this, you will not be able to swing your arm. Omote wrench." With that, the two of them began to spin head first towards the ground. "Shit," swore Zaku as he slammed his palms into the ground. Acting quickly, he sent a blast of air in the direction of the spot where his teammate and the crazy, loud genin were going to land. The ground seemed to puff up right before Dosu landed in it, and Lee broke away. For a moment, Dosu just lay there. Then, without warning, Dosu pulled his head out of the dirt. "Thank you, Zaku," he said. "If you hadn't softened the ground, I would have been killed." He then pulled back the sleeve on his right arm and stared at Lee. The green-wearing teen was barely able to stand due to his last attack, and what was worse was that anybody with working eyes could see it. Dosu charged at Lee and swung his right arm in front of Lee. For a second, nothing happened. Then the world became blurry as Lee fell to his knees. "What?" asked Lee as he reached for his left ear. "Hee," laughed Dosu as he pulled out his gauntlet. "What you are experiencing is the effects of my Kaiamaizen. I use my melody arm here to generate sound wave that I can then redirect and amplify with my chakra. Now that you know that, you can die with the knowledge of the jutsu that killed you." Dosu pulled back his arm again and prepared to swing. Then, "Like hell you'll kill him," screamed an angry female voice. Everyone looked up into the trees and saw his aim standing on her feet, pointing a sword at Dosu. "I finally found my perfect guy, and there is no way I'm going to let you kill him." Dosu blinked in confusion. He looked at his aim, and then at Lee, and then back at his aim. "You have weird tastes," he said. This caused his aim to grind her sharp, pointy teeth. She then raised both of her swords and yelled, "Raikyu!" The ball of lightning shot downward toward Dosu, who jumped away in time. When he landed, his aim was standing in his spot. "I know your weakness," she said with a smile. "You have to be close to your opponent in order for the effects of your attack to work. This means you are at a disadvantage against long-range fighters. And I just so happen to be both close and long-range." "Maybe," said Zaku. "But you are a lightning user, and I'm a wind user." Zaku then brought his arms up, and a moment later a gust of wind came out of the holes in his palms. "My element beats yours, and I'm able to fight long range as well. You might want to consider your last words." His aim grinned evilly. "Are you afraid of spiders?" she asked. Zaku raised an eyebrow at that. What did she mean by that? He then looked down and saw a small spider made of clay on his right arm. "Don't you know," said a voice from behind them, "that art is a blast?" The clay spider then exploded, causing Zaku to scream in pain. His right arm fell to his side with blood dripping to the ground. Both he and Kin looked behind them and saw Michi standing behind them, with clay birds circling around her head. "Shit," cursed Dosu. Before he could say any more, he sensed a powerful chakra spike from the tree. In fact, everyone did. They all turned their heads and saw Sasuke stand up while purple chakra began to surround his body. In addition to that, black marks appeared on his skin. Sasuke vanished and then reappeared behind Kin, who had readied some sunbon needles. He launched a punch to her right side and then a blow to the back of her head. Then he vanished again and appeared next to Zaku and then grabbed his left arm. "I bet you're proud of these arms," Sasuke said coldly. He then tightened his grip and continued to do so until he heard a snap. Zaku screamed in pain until Sasuke kicked him in the gut, causing him to pass out. Slowly, Sasuke eyed those who were still standing and those who were hiding. He looked up and saw Neji and Tenten, who were watching to see what would happen next. He then glanced at the spot where Team 10 was hiding. Then he saw his aim begin to spin her swords above her head, and he grinned. There was someone who was willing to fight him. He charged at the shark girl as a disc of lightning appeared above her head. It then began to cover her body as she yelled, "Reijiki no Yoroi." Sasuke's fist hit her, and he was then given a powerful shock, causing him to scream before he passed out. As he lay on the ground, the cursed marks began to recede until he was normal again. "Sasuke-kun!" yelled Ino as she jumped out of her hiding place. She then pointed an accusing finger at his aim. "How dare you hurt Sasuke? You freaky shark girl!" His aim sighed. "He attacked me, and I defended myself," she said. She then turned around and saw Neji and Tenten picking up Lee. "So," she said seductively, "do I get a reward for saving your life?" Well, I guess, said Lee nervously. But before he could saw anything else, his aim appeared in front of him and locked lips. Everyone just stared in shock except of one person. Hello, I'm still here, said Dosu. But nobody seemed to be paying attention to him. Fine, I'll just leave this earth scroll here and be on my way. With that, he set down the earth scroll, picked up his allies, and left. Let's go, said Neji as he snapped out of it. Tenten nodded, and the two of them left, dragging along a shocked Lee. No fair, cried his aim as she stomped her foot. I wanted to do more. Like what? Demanded Michi. Well, like this and that, said his aim with a blush. Michi just grabbed her by the ear and began to drag her out of the clearing. So what do we do now? Asked Choji as he munched on some chips. We help Sasuke get better, said Ino as she rushed to the emo boy's side. Troublesome, said Shikamaru. I guess we'll help Anko, since she really needs help. Go on and try, said Naruto, getting everyone's attention. Then a smile appeared on his face. That is if you really think that I'm contained. Sex stared at Naruto. What could he be thinking? There's no way he can get out of the web those two twits wove. Is he trying to bluff me or something? Sex then grinned evilly as something inside him told him that the fun was just starting. Yeah, I do, said Sex as he began to spin the Titan blade in front of him. Around and around it went until it was just a blur. Baraka Tatsumaki, he yelled as a black mass of air shaped like a drill came rushing at Naruto. The blonde reached behind him and pulled out the Raijin. Raising it over his head, he shot up into the air while cutting any chakra wire that were in his path until he was out of the web that the twin created. Sex's attack continued, destroying everything in its path until it dissipated several dozen yards later. Wow, cried Naruto as he looked at the damage. Aim has some great jutsus. Who taught that to you, Sex? No one, said Sex with a grin as he tightened his grip on the Titan blade. That was a Sex original. Cool. So you're a wind user too, said Naruto with grin. He then deactivated the Raijin and put it back in his pouch. But there is a difference between a user and a master. With that, Naruto began to spin his right arm around until a tornado formed around it. Meet my own original, the Senpuken. Now let's have some fun. With that, Naruto shot down at Sex, who began to spin his blade again. But this time he was doing it above his head. Try this on for size, said Sex. Kakaita. As he called out his attack, the blades on the Titan blade seemed to catch on fire, making it look like a disc of flames due to the spinning. Sex then threw the Titan blade at Naruto, who dodged the attack. The Titan blade traveled to the end of the clearing until it hit a baby deer. A moment later, a bunny and a baby skunk came out of hiding. Oh my Cammy, cried the bunny. He killed Bambi. You bastard, squeaked the skunk. What the hell? Yelled Naruto as he looked down from the air. You can use fire as well? Yes and no, answered Sex. Everyone knows that the more prepared shinobi will win. So, in order to put this into practice, managed to complete the first step of 4 of the 5 elements. Look at it this way. You spent all your time working on one element while I went for a variety. This way, I can pick the attack that I know that will have the best chance at betting my opponent. Looks like you shouldn't have put all your eggs in one basket. Please, said Naruto smugly. Jack of all trades and master of none. There's a reason why people say that. You may be able to do more, but their power doesn't come close to mine. We'll just have to see about that, said Sex. He then charged forward and ran right for his Titan blade. Naruto began to move to intercept, but chakra wires appeared in front of him. He looked down and saw Elf and Zolf as they made a net between Naruto and Sex. From this point on, said Sex as he pulled the Titan blade out of the Bambi. You two are not to interfere. Got it? But Sex began Elf. Got it, roared Sex. The two nodded in defeat as the net vanished. Sex then pointed the Titan blade at Naruto. From this point on, it's one-on-one. I want a clear victory against you, as well as a fair one. With that, Sex lifted the Titan blade over his head and began to spin it again. Fine with me, said Naruto as he pulled out the Raijin and activated the blade. He then flew down close to the ground and then headed right for Sex. Sex too began to run at Naruto as he yelled Kakijin. Sex's teammates watched as the two blades clashed. Naruto planted his feet on ground and began to push with all his might. Sex pushed as well in this battle for dominance. Slowly, Sex felt Naruto being pushed backwards and grinned, and he added more chakra to feed the flames. "This is it," cried out Sex in pure joy. "Finally, I'll be able to prove to Hanzo-sama that I am better than you. Crushing you is only one step in fulfilling my dream to become as strong as Hanzo-sama." "That's it?" asked Naruto as he began to push back with more force. "That's all you want? To be as good as someone else? No wonder Hanzo-jizan likes me better." "What the hell are you talking about?" yelled Sex as anger flooded his. "You don't know anything. I think I know more than you," said Naruto as he took a step forward, shocking Sex. "I plan on becoming the strongest Hokage ever, to surpass all the ones who came before me. I plan on surpassing even Hanzo-jizan and everyone else out there." "That's impossible," yelled Sex as he was forced back another step. "No one can ever become stronger than Hanzo-sama. No one. You'll die in vain trying." "But I dare to try," said Naruto as he took another step forward. "I'm sure that there was once somebody really strong before Hanzo-jizan, and he wanted to surpass him." Naruto took another step. "I'm sure a lot of people laughed at him and called him a baka." Once more, Sex was forced back. But with hard work, Hanzo-jizan was able to achieve his goals and show everyone that he was able to become the strongest. Now a powerful wind began to surround the two swordsmen that began to push Elf and Zolf away. "People may call me a baka, but I will surpass the old generation and step out of their shadow." Seeing he was in a losing battle, Sex kicked Naruto in the chest and jumped backwards several feet. Naruto watched as Sex just stood there with his head facing the earth. "Is that what I've been doing wrong?" thought Sex. "All I've ever wanted was to be as powerful as Hanzo-sama, the man who saved me from being used as a human landmine detector." He tightened his grip on his blade. Was it that simple? To be more like him, I had to surpass him? Slowly, Sex raised his head and stared at Naruto. "Uzumaki, what do you know of the great white shark?" asked Sex. Naruto blinked. "Ah, they're big white sharks," said Naruto. "Well, that's true," said Sex as he sweat dropped. "But they are so perfect that they have never needed to evolve. That is the way I have always viewed Hanzo-sama, a perfect killing machine. So tell me, how do I surpass perfection?" "I don't know," said Naruto with a small grin. "But I'll let you know when I get there." Sex blinked. Then, for reasons he didn't even know, Sex began to laugh. Elf and Zolf looked at each other in utter confusion as Sex laughed so hard that he had a tear rolling down his cheek. "I don't know what it is about you," said Sex as he calmed down. "No matter what comes out of your mouth, it doesn't piss me off nearly as much as when others say things like it. And fighting you isn't nearly as boring as some of the other fights that I've had to fight." "Why is that?" Naruto shrugged. "Maybe because you respect me as a worthy shinobi," said Naruto with a grin. Sex grinned as well. "Uzumaki, no matter how this fight ends, I'll have no regrets," said Sex. He then ran through several hand signs before yelling, "Doton, Yaku no Jutsu." Sex then stomped his foot on the ground and a large, dense chunk of rock shot out of the ground. Sex then swung the Titan blade so that the flat side of his weapon hit the rock and sent it flying towards Naruto. Naruto quickly put away the Raijin. Then he began to spin his right arm until once again there was a twister around it. Naruto then swung his fist at the incoming rock and yelled Senpuken as he made contact. The rock burst into hundreds of smaller pieces and went flying towards Sex. Not having enough time to start spinning his Titan blade, Sex guarded his vitals with his arms. While they were small, many of the rock pieces were able to do noticeable damage to Sex. However, they were mostly nicks on his sides. But before he could lower his arms, Naruto's fist hit him in the gut. Clever thought, Sex. He used his jutsu to send mine right back at me. He then used it as a cover and flew at me to punch me in the gut. Not bad. With that, Sex hit the ground. He looked up and saw Naruto standing above him. "Go on and finish it," said Sex. "If you don't, I'll just try again and again." Naruto grinned. "I can live with that," he replied as he held out his hand. "Need a hand?" Sex grinned as he slowly lifted his arm and took hold of Naruto's helping hand. It was now the night before the second part of the exam ended. Anko and Sasuke had teamed up with Kabuto in order to get a heaven scroll. Kabuto directed them to the spot where they would have the most luck at finding one, around the tower. They began to watch the tower until they realized that they were under some kind of jinjutsu. Once it was exposed, the aim responsible for it appeared and used the Kasumi Jusha no Jutsu to fool them. "This is getting us nowhere," said Anko as her Yurumi pierced several clones that then turned into blackish ooze. Then, the clones began to regenerate until they looked as if nothing happened. "Sasuke, now's the time to put that Sharingan of yours to good use." "Right," said Sasuke. He activated his Sharingan for a moment, but stopped as the mark on his neck began to cause him pain. "What's wrong with me? I should be able to do with no problem. What did that freak do to me?" His line of thought ended as he dodged one of the clone's attacks. Up in the trio, Boro and his two teammates laughed. Now all they had to do was get them to waste their chakra, and then kill them once they were too weak to do anything about it. Then, they noticed two people enter the area where the fighting was taking place. "Ramen's better," yelled Naruto at Sex, who was picking his eyes. "On what planet?" demanded Sex. "Karak is the food of the gods. You're just too stupid to notice." "Why, I'm going to," began Naruto, but then both he and Sex noticed the fight going on. "Hey guys, what up?" Forgetting everything that was going on, Anko rushed over to Naruto and grabbed him by his shirt. She then began to shake him back and forth. "What's up?" she said. "That's all you have to say? I was worried sick about you, and here you are acting like nothing wrong happened? I was stuck with Sasuke for a whole week, and it was no picnic." "Anko-chan, please stop," begged Naruto before he went puff. Anko blinked in surprise. "Damn," said Sex. "It was going to be so cool." Then he too went puff. "What the hell happened?" demanded Oboro. Then he felt someone tap him on the back. Slowly, he and his teammates turned around and saw Team Sex and Naruto. This left them with one thing to say. "Mommy." The last thing they saw were several fists coming right at them. Next time will be the first match in the prelims. Hope you are ready for some changes. Also, if I get this done before Halloween, there will be a special nightmare in store for Hayashi. So please read and review. Translations: Baraku Tatsumaki, Black Tornado Kakijiden, Fire Spin, Doton, Yaku no Jutsu, Earth Release, Baseball Jutsu. Chapter 18. Damn you, Danzo. Why are you keeping Naruto away? Are you hoping Tsunade will die defending the village? Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Anyway, welcome to the special Halloween edition of Wind Lord. It's extra long today, so there's you treat. Hope you all like my tricks as well. Please read and review. Hayashi was alone, walking the path of an old trail in the middle of the woods. Moonlight shone on him, and he could clearly see the stars due to the fact that all the leaves had fallen. A cold breeze blew past him, taking along with it several leaves. Not a sound could be heard, not an insect, animal, nor the crunching of the leaves. It was as if he were the only thing alive in this forest. Yet that didn't seem to bother him, as the head of the Hyuga clan continued to walk on this old trail. Soon Hayashi came to an old campground. He stood at the entrance and could see everything in the pale moonlight. There were several cabins that surrounded a fire pit that hadn't been used in the longest time. The cabins, once white, had fallen on hard times. Several windows were broken, and there were holes here and there. The paint had begun to peel to reveal the rioted wood behind them. Hayashi looked at the sai and saw that the camp was called Yuganadi Beach. Not knowing what that meant, Hayashi shrugged and made his way to the nearby lake. Once he was on the dock, he saw a figure in the water. It was a woman, and she was dressed only in her underwear. While that was shocking enough, he received an even larger one when he saw her face. It was his wife. She winked at him before beginning to swim into deeper parts of the lake. Forgetting he was still clothed, Hayashi jumped into the water and swam after her. Nothing else seemed to register in his mind except the need to touch her once more. Eventually, she stopped near the shore on the other side of the lake. When Hayashi was only a few feet away from her, she turned around, causing Hayashi to gasp in fright. Her eyes were gone. "Why?" she asked in a voice that sounded like wailing. "Why did you destroy our family?" Before Hayashi could saw anything, a blade shot out of her stomach. Then a figure rose out of the water from behind her, and Hayashi could see him. He was tall, bald, and wearing a hockey mask. Blood spilled out of the man's ex-wife and into the water. Acting on instinct, Hayashi turned around and began to swim away from Jason as fast as he possibly could. His chaser slowly sank to the bottom of the lake and began to walk after him. There was no need to hurry. When Hayashi got to the shore, he ran out of the water and towards the campground. Once there, he found Hanabi sitting in front of the fire pit. A fire had been lit, and she was staring at it with great intensity. Hayashi moved over to his daughter so that he could take her away from this awful place. However, before he was even several yards away from her, Hanabi's head spun around like an owl's. Her eyes were missing, and her hair began to grow at an alarming rate. Slowly, it began to move towards Hayashi, who began to stumble backwards. Suddenly, pain shot through his chest. A moment later, a metal-clawed hand shot out of his gut. Then came a severely burned head. Hayashi looked down, and the head winked at him. "Hey," said Freddy. "It's a little crowded in here. That alien won't get off my couch." Another hand came out of Hayashi, and this one was holding a small, black serpent-like creature. Hayashi screamed, and Freddy laughed as he jumped out of Hayashi's gut. Hayashi, who was somehow fine, continued to scream as he ran into one of the cabins and closed the door. Hayashi opened his eyes and found himself strapped to a metal chair. Looking down, he saw tubes connected to his side, and at the other end were medical bags containing a purplish liquid. Then a voice spoke out from nowhere. "Hello, Hyuga Hayashi. I want to play a game. Every day you look down on others because you think you are better than they are, because they don't have your eyes. You insult others and belittle their skills while believing that only the head family of your clan has any merit. Now you must choose between your pride and your life. The chemical in those medical bags is a powerful paralyzing agent. It is so powerful that one drop will paralyze your lungs. On the back of your chair is a remote device that will send a signal to release the chemical into your system. If you try to remove the tubes yourself, the agent will be released immediately into your system. Hidden in this room are 2 keys which will turn off the machine. Without them, you will die a very slow and painful death. Find the keys and you walk out of here with your life. You have 1 minute to find them. Here's a hint. The eyes have it. Let the games begin." The bindings holding down Hayashi's arms were then released as a ticking sound filled the room. Hayashi looked around the room in a panic. He had to find those keys. Quickly, he yelled out, "Be a Kugan." Using the power of his clan's all-seeing eyes, he scanned the room. Finding nothing, he decided to scan himself and then froze. The keys were behind his eyes. Slowly, Hayashi moved a trembling hand to his left eye. Soon he was screaming in pain as he pushed his fingers into his soft eyes, destroying it. Slowly, he pulled out a key as the remains of his eyes fell to the floor. Then, as he held up the tiny key, the buzzer sounded. "Time's up," said the voice as the toxin entered Hayashi's system. Hayashi woke up in a cold sweat. On his TV set were several horror DVDs. Slowly, he remembered the horror movie fest he had the previous night. "Okay then," he said slowly. "No more horror movies before bed." Naruto walked down the hallways of the tower towards the showers. On one arm was a towel, while the other carried his soap and shampoo. While this place had a lot of rooms, there was only one shower in the entire building. True, about 20 people could shower at the same time in the shower room, but it was a huge inconvenience. The reason before this was the reason Naruto stopped in the middle of the hall as he saw all the male shinobi standing outside the shower room with their own soaps and towels. Only one thing could do this. The girls got to the shower first. With a sigh, Naruto looked around. There were several seats in the area, but they were already in use. There was also a large bookcase filled with books and magazines. Whoever had set this area up must have done so with this kind of situation in mind. Having nothing else to do, Naruto went over to the bookcase and randomly pulled a book off the case. After blowing off a layer of dust that was on the cover, he opened it to discover that it was full of fairy tales. Having nothing better to do, Naruto began to read the first one. Long ago, there was a powerful shinobi named the Rakuto Sennin. During his time on Earth, he had taken many wives and with them had many children. Each one of his children grew up to be gifted shinobi as well, each with their own special skills. One day, near the end of his life, The Rikudo Sennin called 3 of his sons to his bedside. Each one of these 3 came from different mothers, and each had his own values. The oldest of the 3 was the wisest, who weighed out each situation before making any kind of decision. The middle son was faithful and viewed the world in black and white terms. The youngest of the 3 was the most loving, following his heart in every choice he made. When all 3 stood before their father, he spoke to them. "My sons," he said, "my time grows short, and I wish to give you each your inheritance before I go. But I do not know what to give you. So go and bring me the thing that you cherish most. From that, I will decide who shall receive what blessing." So the next day his sons entered their father's room one by one. The eldest son entered first, bringing with him only a branch. "Toussaint," said the eldest son, "this is what I cherish most in the world. Trees give us shade from the sun and food to eat. I made my house from them, as did you. They make the air we breathe and make the air smell sweet." The Rikudo Sennin nodded and beckoned his son to come to his bedside. Once he was close enough, his father placed a purple teardrop in his son's hand. "My son," said the Rikudo Sennin, "you are very wise to thank nature for all it provides. For your wisdom, I shall grant you great power to protect what you cherish. While the giant beasts may destroy the cities, your forests will sap their strength. In the end, they will bow to you like a dog to his master. They will fear you and your powers." Then the second son came into the room with nothing. "Toussaint," he said, "I cherish my eyes above all else. Like yours, they let me see many things in ways others cannot. With them, I can see all that is good and evil. And with these eyes, I shall destroy evil." The Rikudo Sennin nodded and beckoned his son to come to his bedside. Once he was close enough, his father placed a second purple teardrop in his son's hand. "My son," said the Rikudo Sennin, "I am proud that you wish to do good in the world. So to help you with this quest, I grant you great power. On your command, the giant beast will come to you. No matter where they may be, your voice shall always reach them, and they shall always appear before you. But I leave you with this warning. Always remember that you are a mere mortal and capable of mistakes. With this power, what will happen can never be undone. So do not pass judgment too rashly, or else you shall become the very evil you wish to destroy." Then the youngest brother entered the room with his fiancée. At this, his brother scoffed, for he spent much of his time with her instead of training. "Toussaint," said the youngest of the 3, "you asked what I cherished most in this world, and I have brought her to you. She may not be the most beautiful, the best cook, or dress in the finest robes, but she means more to me than anything else. She makes me feel like I can touch the stars with the grace of the eagles. She shall bear my children and create a family for me. As long as I have her, I need nothing else." "Bold words," said the boy's father. "Then you don't mind if I give your inheritance to your other brothers?" "Do with it what you wish, for it is yours to give," said his son without wasting a moment. "I have earned my love's heart, and it means more to me than anything that is simply given." At that, his brothers shook their heads and called him a fool for turning down power. Then the Rikudo Sennin got out of bed, walked over to his youngest son, and hugged him tightly. "My precious son," he said, "you are by far the wisest. Strength and power may last only a few decades, but love will last for generations. So on to you, I shall grant the power to protect those you care about. Though the giant beasts will try to harm you and your kin, your love will destroy them with their own power. The more they try to harm you, the more harm they shall do unto themselves." And with that, he gave his youngest son the final purple teardrop. Soon after this, their father passed on, and the 3 brothers left to start their own clans. Naruto was about to turn the page when he heard something coming from inside the shower. "Dear Kami," cried Ino. "Hinata, those boobs are huge." "Ino," whined Hinata. "Not so loud. The boys might." "Hey, don't feel me up." Now, all the boys were listening. "But I couldn't help myself," said Elf. "H," came the voice of Temari. "What the hell is wrong with you two?" "I couldn't help but make a comparison," said Zolf. Now all the boys had nosebleeds. Even Gaara. "Hey," said Elf. "Nice tattoo, Blondie. Very daring to put a rose there." "Shut up," screamed Temari. A moment later, the twins from AIM came running out of the shower with their towels loosely hanging off their bodies. Soon all the other girls came out of the shower, with many of them having red faces due to embarrassment. Once all the girls had left, the boys entered the area when it had all happened. A few minutes later, the girls came back to the shower area. Leading the pack was Temari, who was going to kill Kankuro for taking her makeup again. The other girls were coming along to watch her kill him with her fan. Once they were in front of the shower room, they were able to hear what was going on inside. "Holy shit," yelled Kiba. "Nanny?" asked Naruto. "Yeah," came Sek's voice. "Why the hell are you pointing at us?" "Those things are huge," roared Kiba. Now the girls were really listening in with nosebleeds of their own. "You make the rest of us feel inadequate," said Shino. "Troublesome," said Shikamaru. "Maybe you're all just too small," said Naruto. "I mean, why do we have to be too big?" "Baka," said Sex. "It's a compliment." He paused for a moment. "But that was a good insult." "You're freaks," said Zaku. "And look at that guy. He reminds me of those Tanuki statues." "Is that a problem?" demanded Gaara. "Hey, if you have a problem, then stop staring," shouted Sex. "How can we not?" yelled Kiba. The girls at that point decided silently to leave before they heard anything else anymore, and it would be impossible to look at their male teammates anymore without remembering this and letting their imaginations go to work. 8 genin teams now stood in rows of 3 in a large room. Before them stood their senseis, the examiners, and the Hokage himself. There were also several technicians in the room who were setting up cameras in various parts of the room. Before anyone could ask what was up with them, the Hokage cleared his throat. "Congratulations are in order," said Sarutobi. "You have all passed very difficult tests to make it this far. It was only by working with your teammates and trusting each other that you were able to do this. But from this point on, you will be fighting for yourself. In 1 month's time, various daimyos, lords, and other high-ranking people will be coming to this village to see you demonstrate your skills in one-on-one combat. This time will be used so that we may contact all the needed parties officially and give them the proper amount of time needed to get here. Also, it will give you all time to hone your skills and rest so that you will be at your very best. Remember that the people coming may also be your future clients. They will be judging your village by your fights and use them to determine if they want to hire your village's shinobi." As Sarutobi went on, Naruto and Sex became very excited. The last part of the exam would be a fighting competition of some kind. That meant that there was a good chance they would get a rematch. Just then a cloud of smoke appeared in between the genin and the Hokage. When the smoke cleared, a sickly-looking man stood in front of them. "Hokage-sama, cough, it is time," he said. As he turned around to face the genins, the camera crew left the area. "My name is Koff Gecko Hate. Before we have the finals, we must cut the number of shinobi who will be taking Koff. We mustn't bore the people coming with too many fights that aren't worth their time. To do this, we will be having a prelim round. Also, the Council has decided to air This All Live. With all this in mind, please raise your hand if you are not feeling well, or your camera shy, and you will be dropped." When he was finished, most of the genin in the room were wondering if he should even be here as well. In the end, 3 people raised their hands. They were Kabuto, Elf, and Zolf. Sex looked at his 2 teammates in confusion. "Why the fuck are you 2 dropping out now?" he demanded. "You might get an easy win." "But our fighting style requires the both of us," said Elf. "We're useless by ourselves." "Yeah," agreed Zolf. "Not to mention that we might have to fight you." Meanwhile, people all over the elemental nations were tuning in to watch the prelims. Once 5 teams had arrived, the rules stated that they had too many shinobi and prelims were needed. So the council decided to make some more, as well as advertise for the upcoming finals at the same time with a live television broadcast. Ever since then, advertisements were made telling people about these matches, and they didn't go unnoticed. Irika had canceled classes for that day, so they could all watch the fights so his students could see what real shinobi combat was like. Hanzo had a plasma TV set moved into his office, so he could watch Naruto and Sex fight. In a mountain cabin, Zabuza was fiddling with the antenna, so he could watch without seeing snow. The people in Nami were all set to watch this as well. Every bar and casino had tuned in so people could place bets, getting the attention of a certain blonde woman. In Kumogakure, Killer Bee made his way to his brother's office. When he entered the room, he was the Raikage and Ni Yujito standing in front of a TV set. When they heard him come in, they turned to greet him. "So tell me, bro, will these fights require a cup of joe?" Rap Killer B. The other two shinobi in the room groaned. "Yubaka," said Yujito. "The Kyubi Jinchuriki will be in this exam." "I have now seen the light. The Kitsune will be in the fight," rapped Killer B. "But I must know about this bout. Tell me how you found out." "One of our spies informed us," said the Raikage. "We have also learned that soon as Jinchuriki will also be in the exam. A fight between the two will make this very exciting." In a bar a few miles from Kanehagakure, one person wasn't as informed as he should have been. "They're canceling my soap for Todi for some gaki fight?" demanded Jiraiya as he looked at the television set. That was so unfair. His book was supposed to be in today's episode. Then he saw the two female announcer for the program and decided that maybe it wouldn't be so bad. "Welcome fight fans," said the first one. She had on a wit short sleeve shirt, yellow shorts, and a blue tie. She was young, maybe around 20, and had bushy brown hair with whisker marks on her face. "I'm your hostess Jinsei Kodo." "And I'm Tadamari Yuri," said the equally young girl next to Kodo. She had teal-colored hair and blue eyes. Her black outfit clung tightly to her body, and the area around the stomach was completely bare. A piece of pink cloth covered her breast. "In 1 month the finals for the Chunin exam will take place," said Kodo excitedly. "But who can wait to see all that blood and violence? So thanks to the Konoha Council, we are bringing you fight fans and gamblers the prelims. The rules are simple," said Yuri. "You are disqualified if you fall unconscious, deemed unfit to continue, or die. Other than that, there are no rules. Currently, there are 3 shinobi who are the odds-on favorites. First, there is Uchiha Sasuke, the last of the Uchiha clan and a student of Hitaki Kakashi. Next, we have Hyuga Neji, who is considered to be the young genius of his clan. Finally, we Gaara, youngest son of the Kazekage. But let's not forget all the other contestants," said Kodo. "All of them have earned the right to be here, and they are ready to go. Oh look, the first match has been decided." It was true. While they had been talking, a screen behind them showed what was going on at the tower. The screen zoomed in on another screen, which went through names randomly, and had stopped on the names of 2 unlikely shinobi. "It seems that the first fight will be between Uchiha Sasuke and Shohoin Hinata," said Yuri as she was handed a piece of paper from off the camera. "According to our information, Hinata-san was kicked out of the Hyuga clan for being too weak. It looks like Sasuke-san will be in for an easy match." "Don't be too sure," said Kodo. "I have heard that Hinata-san was trained by Yoruichi-sama. Back in the tower, everyone but Hinata and Sasuke had gone up to the waiting area to watch the fights. Sasuke was gripping his shoulder as he waited for the fight to begin. It was clear to everyone that he was in pain. What they didn't know was that he couldn't risk using his chakra, or else the seal would be unleashed if he couldn't control it. This put him in a dangerous spot. "Ono," said Hinata. "Sasuke, if you aren't feeling well, then maybe you should forfeit and get some help." "Shut up," snarled Sasuke. "This is nothing. And it would take more than this to cause me to lose to someone who was so weak that their own family kicked them out." At that, Hinata's eyes narrowed. "That was uncalled for," said Hinata slowly. Up in the stands, Anko and Naruto shivered knowing that Hinata was barely keeping her anger in check. "Well, that was mean," said Haku as she appeared next to Naruto. "You can say." "Haku Itoko, what are you doing here?" asked Naruto once he realized she was there. From across the room, Gaara noticed she was there as well and felt his face become warmer for some reason. "Well, I wanted to see you in this exam," she replied. "I got here a while ago, but I've been in the kitchen until just a little while ago. When this is over, I can serve everyone my latest creation." Once again, Naruto and Anko shuddered. "You shouldn't be here," continued Sasuke. He could tell he was hitting her buttons. He needed to push her until she snapped and couldn't think straight. He would then use that to his advantage and win the match. Sure, it was low and dirty, but that didn't matter in this exam. You're just a weak little girl who was only taken in out of pity. When I lost everything, I didn't go crying to others. "All right, that's enough," said Hade. Hajime. What happened next was a blur. Before Sasuke could even get into his fighting stance, he was shot straight into the air. Then he was flung right into the wall so hard that it caused cracks to form before falling to the floor. Those who had been watching Hinata had only seen her flicker for a moment and assumed that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Hate went over to Sasuke and confirmed that he was unconscious. "Winner, Hinata." "What happened?" asked Yuri. "Did she use some kind of mental power? Was that legal?" "Everything's legal here," said Kodo. "As for what happened, let's do a playback in super slow motion." The scene changed and showed the match between Sasuke and Hinata. As Sasuke slowly got into his stance, Hinata used Shunpa to get in front of him to deliver a sky-high kick. Then, while Sasuke was in the air, Hinata got in front of him again, grabbed his shirt, and gave him 2 hard kicks in the gut. She then let go of his shirt and delivered the final roundhouse kick before returning to her original spot. "Amazing," commented Yuri. "She moved so fast that you couldn't even see her move. And it looks like Kakashi-san is taking Sasuke-san out of the arena. Do you think there's something wrong?" "Maybe a couple of broken bones," said Kodo as she noticed that the next 2 contenders had been decided. "Looks like round 2 will be Yamanaka Ino versus Tsuchi-kin. This should be interesting. The Yamanaka clan is known for its mind-controlling jutsus. However, we know little about the Odonin, so it's anyone's guess." Back at the tower, Hinata made her way back to her team, while Ino and Kin made their way to the floor. By the time she got halfway, Naruto appeared in front of her and embraced her in a hug, causing her face to turn red. Kiba growled at this and wanted to stop Naruto right away, but Kurenai held the feral boy back. "You did great, Hinata-chan," said Naruto loudly as he let go. "T thinks Naruto-kun," said Hinata as she tried to get her emotions back under control. "But I'm sorry I hurt your teammate." "Nah, don't worry about it," said Naruto. "He was being a jerk and deserved it." On the floor, Kin could hear her teammates belittling her. It was always like this with her, and today she was going to change that. She had a secret weapon that she had planned to save for the finals. But after their last failure, she decided to go all out, even if it was wasted on a girl who was most likely a fangirl. "Hajime," yelled Hate. With that, Ino pulled out a kunai. Kin, however, pulled out a scroll and smirked. She then bit her thumb, opened the scroll, and then unsealed the weapon inside. When the smoke cleared, Kin was seen holding a scythe. The handle was black, and the blade reflected the light perfectly. On the other end was a chain, and attached to the chain was a bell the size of a fist. "It'll take more than that to beat me," said Ino as she began to sweat. Kin smirked as she charged at the blonde. Ino raised her kunai and waited. She knew the weakness of her weapon was that after she swung, she would leave herself exposed. All Ino had to do was wait, dodge, and then attack. A half-second later, Kin was in front of Ino and swung her scythe. As the blade drew nearer, Ino heard a ringing sound. Then the next thing she knew was that there were 5 blades now. Freaking out, Ino jumped back in time to dodge the attack. "What's wrong, Ino?" yelled Chuji. "You look like you freaked out back there." "I know," said Ino as she kept her eyes on Kin. "There's something off about that weapon." Kin smirked. "Even if you knew what it was, there is nothing you can do about it," said Kin as she readied her scythe. "This next attack will finish you off." With that, Kin ran at Ino with the back end of her weapon ready to strike. Ino was prepared to act when she heard the ringing of a bell again, and then the bell suddenly became the size of a boulder. Panicking, Ino jumped to the side as the giant bell crashed into the ground. The force Ino had used to jump away had been so great that when she hit the ground, she began to roll for several feet. Quickly, she tried to get up, but Kin was already set to strike. In a single motion, the scythe slashed across Ino's chest, causing blood to fly in the air. Shock filled Ino's eyes before she fell to the ground. Kin stared at the body as blood began to pool around her and sighed. She had missed her vitals. The blonde would live. "Winner, Kin!" yelled Hate as medics rushed onto the scene. "Now that's more like it," said Kodo. "In my opinion, when it comes to blood spilling, Kin is a cut above the rest." "But what happened to Ino-san?" asked Yuri. "Nothing was happening, yet she looked like she was in some kind of panic." "Well, my guess would have to be a jinjutsu of some kind," said Kodo. "Maybe it had something to do with that scythe." Just then, Yuri was handed a piece of paper from off the screen. "I have just been informed that Yamanaka Ino is expected to make a full recovery," said Yuri. "Well, I'm sure all the young men out there are happy." "The third round has just been decided," said Kodo. The next match will be Hyuga Neji versus Uzumaki Naruto. Special Halloween Omake. The Suna siblings entered a dinner on the other side of Konoha. As they seated themselves, they noticed that everyone was eating tomato soup. A few seconds later, Haku appeared from behind the counter. "Hello," she said pleasantly. "I'm Uzumaki Haku, and I'll be your waitress. Today we have only the soup and the special." "Wait," said Kankuro. "What kind of place has only 2 things to eat?" "Sorry," said Haku. "But the manager was high when he ordered our last shipment of supplies, and we can't use most of it." "Fine. I'll have the soup," said Temari. "I will also have the soup," said Gaara. "I'll try the special," said Kankuro. "Be back in a flash," said Haku. And true to her word, she was back before they knew it. She handed out the 2 soups and then gave Kankuro the special. It was a gray, mushy substance with veins all over it. "Who made this?" demanded Kankuro as he poked it with his fork. "I did," said Haku. "Okay, there is," began Kankuro, but was stopped as Gaara's sand wrapped around his neck. "Eat it," said Gaara. Seeing no other choice, as soon as the sand let go of him, he began to eat. Each bite caused his eyes to sting, and his stomach felt like it was jumping through hoops. And after 30 bites, he was done. However, Haku was giving him strange looks. "What?" he demanded weakly. "Well, it's just that the last person who ate the special had an odd reaction," she said. Kankuro was about to ask what she meant when he felt something pushing its way up his throat. Whatever it was solid and big. Kankuro opened his mouth, and then a small black alien jumped out of his mouth. The alien then went over to Kankuro, forcibly opened his mouth, and pulled out a straw hat and a cane. The alien put the hat on and tucked the cane under its armpit as it began to sing and dance. "Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone, and tell me I'm your own." When it was over, the alien held out its straw hat in front of the Suna siblings. "What do you want?" demanded Kankuro. "I think it wants a tip," said Temari. Seeing the creature nod, both she and Gaara put a couple of coins in the alien's hat. "No way in hell am I paying it," said Kankuro as he crossed his arms. The next thing he knew was that the alien had jumped on him and began to tear up his face. Chapter 19. Well, Kakashi is dead. Danzo is an evil jerk. And Naruto, get your ass back to Konoha now. Halloween wasn't all that good for me. I had planned to dress up for work, but at the last minute they told me that there would be now costumes. And mine was perfect. I was going as that creepy old guy from Family Guy. How dare they? About last chapter, I'm sure you all enjoyed it. Believe me that the story of the 3 brothers is important and will pop up again later. Also, I hope everyone liked my updated kin. So, should she stay? Please enjoy this story and review. As soon as the pairing was heard for the 3rd round, the people who were watching began to have different reactions. The people of Nami began to grow excited and cheer for the hero who saved their land and spirits. Zabuza began to curse as snow reappeared on his TV set. The general population of Konoha prayed for either Naruto's death or at the very least to get crippled. Hanzo began to put all his focus on this one match, as did the Raikage. At the academy, Hanabi sat there with a bored look on her face. Neji was going to win this with ease. After all, even her father said his skills were far above average. "All right," yelled Konohamaru. "Now we get to see Naruto Nezen fight. He'll win for sure." "Please," said Hanabi, who was sitting near him. "I know Neji, and he'll win this with ease." "That's not true," said Konohamaru as he stood up and pointed at Hanabi. "Just you wait. The boss will take down Neji. He is my rival for Hokage after all." "That's a laugh," said Hanabi. "All right, that's enough you two," said Irika. "Sit down and watch, or you can stand outside while hold buckets until the matches are over." Needless to say, Konohamaru sat down, but not before sticking his tongue at Hanabi. Hayashi sat with the Hyuga elders as they all watched the matches. Hinata's victory had been a huge blow to him. Hayashi could tell by the looks on most of the other elders' faces that they believed that Hayashi had been too quick to judge the girl. Or maybe his teaching methods didn't work with her. Now everyone knew that they had kicked out such a promising shinobi. Hayashi could barely contain his anger. Had the assassins he hired had only done their job, this would never have happened. He calmed down a bit as he picked up his teacup. He wasn't out of this yet, he still had Neji. While he had wanted Neji to prove that the power of a true Hyuga was greater than that of the Uchiha, seeing the Uzumaki die would be a good second place. And then after that, he could look forward to seeing Hinata's death as well. And the best part was that no legal action could be taken against them during these exams. Without bothering to drink from it, Hayashi continued to hold his teacup as he watched the screen. Wonder how this fight is going to go? Asked someone close to Jiraiya. Jiraiya said nothing as he stared at the picture on the screen. It was as if they had taken a picture of Minato when he was a boy and then gave him whisker marks. As he stared at it, questions began to fill his head. What was he like? Did he have his father's element? How well trained was he? To those few who knew that Jiraiya was Naruto's godfather, him leaving Naruto to fend for himself was a disappointment. They believed that he should have taken Naruto with him or stared in the village with him. But Jiraiya had his reasons. Had they gone on the road, they would have been moving from place to place, never staying in one location for too long. This would have made it hard for Naruto to form bonds with anyone other than himself. Then there were his enemies. He was human after all, and couldn't watch Naruto all the time. All it would take was someone like Orochimaru to go after Naruto to get to him. Also, having a kid around might mess with his research. Staying in the village was out of the question as well. He had his spy network, which he felt the village needed. Also, because of this, he had leader about some dangerous people out there that the old man needed to know. If he hadn't left the village, he might never have found out about them. There would also have been the pressure from the old man to become Hokage, something that he didn't want. Every now and then he contacted his old sensei by mail to find out how things were going with Naruto. For security, they kept them short, and the letters focused on how he was doing socially. For his part, Jiraiya wasn't surprised by how the villagers treated Naruto. It was how all Jinchuriki were treated, and it was better than having him becoming nothing more than a weapon for the village. But that didn't make it right. He was surprised when he had found out about Anko becoming his first real friend. And he nearly flipped when Hinata had been added as a friend. After hearing that, Jiraiya was sure he made the right choice. We now have stats on both shinobi, said Yuri as a side box appeared on the screen. It showed both Naruto's and Neji's pictures with graphs showing their various stats in terms of chakra, taijutsu level, ninjutsu level, jinjutsu level, and experience. As far as anyone could see, Neji beat Naruto in 4 of those categories. Hyuga Neji was last year's Rookie of the Year in Konoha. His skills in Jukin are highly developed despite him being a branch member. He will be fighting against a virtual no-name who was this year's dead last. I feel that it is safe to say that Neji-san will win this one easily. In a bar, one very drunk blonde was watching the television. Upon hearing what Yuri said, she decided to make a bet that she was sure she wouldn't lose. Shizen, said Tsunade. Put all our money on the Hyugagaki. But Tsunade-sama, said Shizen with a fearful voice. You have to think about this more carefully. We are finally able to pay off half of our debts. Do you really think it's wise to gamble at all like this? This is a sure bet, said Tsunade as she waved off Shizen. With a sigh, Shizen placed the bet, praying to all the gods she could think of to let her master win. What information are you looking at? Demanded Kodo. Ah, the one that Konoha gave us, said Yuri as she held up some papers. Kodo just rolled her eyes. You're still new to all of this, said Kodo. Fight fans, as a season announcer, I know you can't base everything on a single source. According to the rumors, it was Naruto-san who played a major role in taking down Momochi Zabuza and then killed the crime lord Gato. He has been given AC rank in the bingo books and has been given the title of Kazeshu by Sanshuo no Hanzo himself. Historically, the Uzumaki clan prided itself for raising the most unpredictable shinobi in the entire world. However, the Uzumaki clan was believed to have been destroyed years ago when the Kyuubi destroyed Yuza no Kanai. But it seems there is one left. That's what you're basing your opinions on? Demanded Yuri. Are rumors and history that no one cares about the best you could come up with? Rumors have to start somewhere. Also, I like his whisker marks, admitted Kodo with a blush. If only he were older. Naruto now stood across from Neji. Slowly he looked around to get an idea of the area. The room was large, but not big enough for some of his summons if he needed them. Also, He couldn't fly around as much as he would like to, or do any blinding attacks using the sun. You should just give up, said Neji suddenly. Naruto's attention returned to Neji, who was looking at him with a bored expression. Fate has already decided that I will win and that you will lose. I don't think so, said Naruto. As far as I know, the only thing that determines my future is me. That is where you are wrong, said Neji as he shook his head. From the moment we are born, our fates are determined and set in stone. Fate determines everything up till our death. Take, for example, your desire to be Hokage. It will never happen. Only a select few ever become Hokage, and that is because they were fated to do so. It is impossible for you, an orphan with no clan to speak of, because you are only as strong as the family you are born into. Things like free will are only an illusion. After that, Neji was silent. Neither of them said a word. Slowly, Naruto closed his eyes as he remembered what Hanzo had told him back when he last saw the old man. Slowly, a smile appeared on his face as he opened his eyes, shocking Neji. The look he had was one of pure confidence, with no trace of doubt. That's a Baka's belief, said Naruto. People call me a Baka, but I'm nothing compared to you. Haji, began Hate. Wait, yelled Sex. He then ran off the platform used by all the foreign shinobi and onto the side occupied by the Konohanins, stopping between Anko and Hinata. Everyone just stared at him, wondering why he did that just now. I just feel safer over here, he said after a moment or two under their gaze. Hajime, yelled Hate, who wanted to get this underway. No sooner had he said that when a powerful wind seemed to explode from where Naruto was standing. Neji watched as Naruto began to float 2 feet off the ground with his arms crossed. Neji wasn't the only one shocked. Almost all the rookies in the room watched with open mouths as Naruto began to something they had never seen before. There was just no way that this could be the same Naruto who was always the class clown, the dope. Even Orochimaru was shocked to see this. This is impossible, thought Neji. This must be a trick of some kind. Whatever it is, I will not lose. I gave him a chance to leave here with his life, and he turned it down. Now he will be humiliated on live TV right before I end his life. Be a Kugen, yelled Neji as veins appeared around his eyes. Naruto smirked at this right before he took off to the slide. Naruto then began to fly around the room at a slow pace at first, but soon began to pick up speed. Neji, on the other hand, remained where he was. What is this about Uzumaki? Do you plan to attack me at some point, or just glide around like an idiot? Just getting into the right mood, said Naruto as he began to move towards Neji from the side. As soon as he was close enough, Neji spun around and prepared to give Naruto a palm thrust to the chest using an upper arm motion. However, as Neji's arm went up, so did Naruto as he blew over Neji. Once he was on the other side of Neji, Naruto quickly spun around to give him a kick to the face. However, Neji saw it in time and blocked it with his forearm. You can surprise me like this, said Neji as they stayed in the same position. I know, replied Naruto. Hinata-chan is my friend after all. Don't you dare mention that loser bitch's name in my presence, spat Neji. Then, for a moment, Neji saw something in Naruto's eyes that scared him. It was only for a moment, but Neji saw pure fury and hatred directed at him. Suddenly, Naruto flew backwards by several yards, and then suddenly he stopped. Do you always have to bring that grudge with you in every fight? Asked Naruto as he stared at Neji. It's getting old, Neji, really old. I know all about what happened that night, you know. Hinata-chan was the victim that night, so get over it. No, yelled Neji. If it hadn't been for her, my father would still be here. Naruto sighed. Looks like words aren't enough to get past that thick skull of yours, said Naruto. Looks like I'll have to use my fists. With that, Naruto began to circle around the room once again. But this time it was much faster. As Naruto went faster and faster, it seemed like a whirlwind had formed in the room. Neji continued to stand in the middle of it, all using chakra to glue his feet to the ground. He stood there doing his best to follow Naruto with his eyes. Then he saw something shot at him from his 10 o'clock position. But something was off. It had a chakra network, and another object with a chakra network was still spinning around the room. Quickly, he grabbed a kunai from his holder and slashed at the incoming Naruto, who then went poof. Just then 2 more Narutos appeared, coming from his 3 and 12 o'clock positions. Neji managed to take them out as well, making it seem effortless. What is this? Thought Neji as he noticed 6 more clones coming from multiple sides at once. These aren't normal clones. They each have their own chakra network, and their chakra is evenly distributed. I can't tell them apart. Then, after Neji had destroyed all the clones, the real Naruto shot out at him while spinning his right arm around. Soon, a small twister had appeared around his fist as Naruto yelled out, "Senpuken!" Acting on instinct, Neji dodged it by side, stepping Naruto, figuring that he could land a hit as Naruto passed him by. Yet the powerful winds that the Senpuken created were too much, and, while he dodged it, he was still sent flying till he hit the wall with a loud thud. Damn, that hurt, he thought. If that was just from getting too close, I'd better not get hit by it directly. Neji's eyes then widened when he saw that Naruto was still coming while his back was turned. Neji spun around and leapt as far from the wall as he could as Naruto's fist connected to the wall. The effect was immediate. One moment the wall was there, and the next there was a huge explosion. Chunks of rock went flying forward, going through several walls. In fact, Naruto could see the outside from where he was. All that remained was rubble, large rocks that were too heavy, and several bits of metal. Luckily for the foreign genins, their senseis sensed the danger and were able to get them out of danger. Except for Gaara, who had to do so on his own. Now everyone stood on the same side, staring at Naruto, trying not to piss their pants at the power jutsu that he had. We need to rethink the rules, thought the old Hokage as he took a drag. When we made the rule that there weren't any rules, we never thought we'd have to deal with something like this. I'm just glad Naruto hasn't summoned anything yet. Now Naruto was on the ground, staring at Neji with a small smirk. So Neji, said Naruto smugly, am I still fated to lose here? Do I still have no talent since I don't have a family? I stand by what I said Neji as he got into his fighting stance. I just have to get close to him to seal off his chakra. Fine then, said Naruto as he raised his right arm straight above his head. I guess I'll try this jutsu on you. With that, Naruto began to spin his arm around while keeping his palm flat. Soon, an almost flat disc of wind appeared an inch off of Naruto's palm. Soon it took the form of a shuriken. Naruto then brought his arm down and took a position that looked like he was about to throw a frisbee. Naruto then threw this wind shuriken at Neji while yelling, "Seppa shuriken!" Neji was about to dodge the attack when he saw it break apart into small bits of spinning wind. Soon there was 24 or more of them. Seeing how spread out they were, Neji knew he couldn't dodge all of them or get out of the way in time. Knowing the only way out of this, Neji got into a position and then began to spin his body around while yelling, "Kaiten!" Soon a spinning dome of chakra appeared around him and deflected the attack. Naruto just stood there and watched, impressed with the jutsu he had just seen Neji use. As soon as his jutsu ended, a tired Neji launched himself towards Naruto. What happened next was Neji fighting at close range. He continued to launch palm thrust after palm thrust while forcing Naruto to retreat. But it wasn't as if Naruto wasn't fighting back. The blonde sent his own fists towards Neji in attempts to hit him, which failed. Well, said Tenten as she watched Neji force Naruto to back up some more. It looks like Naruto's speed isn't as on the ground. That might be true, said Sex. But all that will mean nothing if Neji-san can't clip the Kazeshu's wings. Seeing a palm thrust directed at his chest, Naruto decided to go fly upwards while backing up, so he could keep his eyes on Neji. He noticed now that Neji looked like he was running low on chakra. Sweat seemed to be covering his face and dripping on his clothing and the floor. He had been like that since the Kaiten, so Naruto figured that had to be the reason. It used too much chakra, and Neji hadn't built up his reserves enough. A smile appeared on his face. Time to end this, Neji, said Naruto as he began to spin his right arm around. However, no visible wind seemed to for like last time. Naruto then stopped and then examined his arm to see something he hadn't noticed before. Around his arm were red dots. When did you finally noticed? Said Neji with a smirk. I closed all the chakra points in your right arm while we were exchanging blows. Now I don't have to worry about that Senpuken of yours. Face it, your fate is still to lose to me. Is that so? Said Naruto as he lowered his right arm. Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not done yet. With that, Naruto raised his left arm and began to spin it. Neji could only watch in horror as a new Senpuken formed. That's impossible, yelled Neji. Maybe for someone who believes that fate decides everything, said Naruto. But I make my own. With that, Naruto raced to the ground a few feet from Neji and slammed his fist into the ground. There was a loud explosion, and smoke, despite the powerful wind, blocked everyone's view of the arena. Sex waited with an insane smile on his face as he waited to see the destruction. When the smoke cleared, everyone left of a gasp at what they saw. The stone floor had been destroyed. Parts of the stone tiles had been broken and turned on their side all over the place, making it look like a valley of spikes. In the area that Naruto had hit, the floor had been reduced to sand. That's it, thought Sarutobi as he viewed all of this. We're adding more rules next time, so this doesn't happen again. I'm just glad that this is the ground floor, and the only thing beneath us is several layers of rock. If it hadn't, the floor would have collapsed. Soon, Tintin spotted Neji and pointed him out. He was leaning against a rock spike and in bad shape. His left leg had been stabbed by a chunk of rock shaped like a dagger. His clothing looked like it had been slashed and had several blood spots all over it. His skin was dirty and he was panting hard to try to deal with the pain. Team Guy could only stare in shock. They never believed that anyone here could hurt Neji like that. It had to be a dream of some kind. Then Naruto was spotted floating near the ceiling. Unlike Neji, he didn't seem to have any blood on him. However, the powerful winds had ripped away at his shirt, leaving his chest exposed to everyone who could see, and his pants now ended at his kneecaps. Seeing this, all the girls suddenly had nosebleeds except for Haku. Alright, that's Kafit, said Hade. Everyone turned to see him standing on a spike, dirty but unharmed. Neji is unable to continue fighting. Also, if we let this continue, who knows what will be destroyed next. So the winner is Naruto. No, yelled Neji as he tried to take a step forward. But the pain seemed to intensify, causing him to yell out and return to leaning against the rock. I can still fight. It's my fate to win. Face it, said Naruto as he landed on the ground between Neji and Hade. You lost. Just admit it and let the doctors heal you. You're done here. No, yelled Neji again. You could never understand. Never. It's my fate to leave the branch family and join the main family. Neji then began to look at Naruto, his eyes unfocused. It's all your fault? If you weren't around, this would never have happened. With that, Neji forced his body to charge at Naruto. He had only taken 5 steps before Hade appeared in front of him and punched him in the chest. With that, Neji fell backwards and passed out on the floor. When I say the match is over, it said, hate to Neji's form. He then looked at all the Overgenins. This goes for the rest of you all well. If any of you have a problem with my rulings, then I'll be happy to take you out. Neji lost, said a Hyuga elder in disbelief. I don't believe it. Suddenly, there was a crashing sound. Everyone looked to the source, seeing a shattered teacup and Hayashi's bleeding hand. Hayashi-sama, said another elder. Are you alright? I'll be fine, said Hayashi darkly as he stared at Neji. Just as soon as I take out some trash. What a blast, yelled Kodo as she began to twirl around. Sorry boys, but at a punch party like this a girl can't help but dance. The third round goes to Naruto-san, who has, for someone his age, a nice six-pack. Now if only I could find age acceleration potion for him, or a youth potion for me. But what happened to Neji back there? Asked Yuri. My guess is that he must have had some kind of mental breakdown or something, said Kodo. Destroying one's beliefs tends to do that to a person. It looks like he'll have to seek both physical and mental help before is ready to return to his duties as a shinobi. And I think we can all safely say that Naruto-san has earned his title as the Kaze-shu. Whatever you say, said Yuri. She then looked at the screen and let out a sigh. And it looks like the Kaze-shu already has some mistresses. Naruto had floated over to where had been standing with his team. As soon as he landed, Hinata went over to him and began to look at his right arm. It'll take a while for your chakra points to become unplugged, she said. They then took out a small jar and held it before Naruto. But don't worry, Naruto-kun. I have some healing salve that should help speed up the process. She was then about to start undo the cap when Anko took it from her. I'll do that, she said. After all, he is my teammate. Hinata quickly took the jar back. It's no problem, Anko, she said with a forced smile. After all, I know more about this than you. Well, maybe we don't need your silly little medicine, said Anko as she grabbed Naruto's arm and pulled him over to her. After all, he is a fast healer. Why don't you go and stand with your team? But I can't ignore someone who's injured, said Hinata as she grabbed Naruto's other arm and pulled him over to her. Besides, it'll only take a moment. Ah, can I say something? Asked Naruto. No, said both Anko and Hinata at the same time. This is odd, said Gaara as he watched a battle like none he had ever seen before. Personally, he didn't understand why they hadn't taken their weapons out by now. Really, you think so? Asked Haku, who Gaara just realized he was standing next to. Quickly a blush appeared on his face. What the hell is she doing to me, he wondered. Is she controlling my heart and blood flow somehow? I'll have to ask Baki-sensei about this later. Next time we'll end the prelims. Chapter 20. Once again, sorry for the long-awaited update. I was busy with my other stories which I had neglected for some time. BMB. Path to Jonin is up, but not getting as many reviews as I had hoped. I also updated Tales of the Fox Sage, and that got fewer reviews than I had hoped for. But I know this chapter will get plenty of reviews, right? Naruto is finally getting some action in the battle against Pain. So far he has killed 4 for the 6 Pains, and then 1 was brought back to life, and then Naruto killed the resurrecting one. I am a bit disappointed in the improved or perfected Raisen Shuriken. I just missed the whole millions of tinny cuts thing. But still, it's pretty cool. But the ones I gave him in Tales of the Fox Sage are better. I was also saddened when I found out that Stargate Atlantis is over. At least the final episode was very, very good. Brining Atlantis to Earth in a showdown against the Super Hive ship was amazing. I just wish that they had gone for my love satellite idea or celebrated a holiday. Oh well, now I guess I'll be watching Psych. Here's an idea for a show. There is a new Angel of Death that will soon be taking over the job. Until then, he has to fulfill the last wishes of the first person he is supposed to kill until it's her time. Just one problem. He doesn't know when she's supposed to die. Can he survive being a high school student while waiting for his first client to kick the bucket, or will he decide to take an early retirement? One last thing, and it's about Bleach. I was just thinking about how the series should end. I think that Nell should go with Kenpachi and ride on his shoulder like Ichiro does. Or better yet, Ichigo is offered the position of captain of Squad 5 and Nell become his lieutenant. What do you think? Let's rock. There was a commercial break after Naruto's match. It was clear to see why, since Naruto had destroyed a wall and the floor was a mess. Stones stood upright like giant spikes and rubble covered nearly the entire floor. So while the examiners did their best to clean up the arena for the next fight, the station decided to have a small break. During this time, Irika's classroom was given free time. Some, like Udon, were using this time to do homework or study. Others, like Moegi, were just chatting or coloring. Konohamaru was doing neither. He was just staring out the window as he wondered how he would be able to catch up with Naruto now. The match was awesome, he thought, but showed how far he had to go to in order to continue being Naruto's rival for Hokage. Suddenly, there was a tug on his scarf that pulled his thoughts back into the real world. He turned around and saw Hanabi. I need your help with something, she whispered. Just follow me and try not to get caught. With that, the Hyuga girl slid out of her seat and began to crawl over towards the door while Irika's back was turned. With a shrug, Konohamaru decided to follow her since he had nothing better to do. Once they were both out of the room, Hanabi led them both up to the 3rd floor. This was odd because the 3rd floor didn't have anything. All ahead were a couple of classrooms that were barely used and a couple of storage closets. But it also held one other room, and it was the one that Hanabi stopped in front of. Konohamaru now stood in front of the records room, the holding place of all records about every student in the academy's history. The room was locked, of course, and the only 2 people who had keys were the principal and the Hokage. For Hanabi, this was the big moment to find out the truth. She had tried asking Irika. However, he said that if she wanted to know more about Hinata, then she would have to ask her directly. That was something that Hanabi just wasn't ready to do just yet. Hinata looked too much like her mother. She was also afraid of her father's reaction. He had gone to all this trouble of hiding the truth from everyone, so he had to have a reason. How would he react if he found out that his own daughter was trying to unearth what he had buried? "All right," said Hanabi as she turned around and held out her hand at Konohamaru. "Give me the key." What key?" asked Konohamaru as he began to sweat a bit. Hanabi narrowed her eyes and leaned closer. "I know you have a copy of the Hokage's key that opens every door in here," she said. "And I know that you have it on you right now. Trust me, I know." As she said that last part, Hanabi activated her Byakugan for the added effect. And it worked perfectly. "I feel so violated," said Konohamaru as he handed her the key. "Just don't go looking at me like that again." Hanabi snorted as she unlocked the door. "Like I want to do that again," she said with a shudder as she opened the door. One of the problems with having X-rays for eyes is control. Sometimes you can look through a person and sometimes, like this one, only see through their clothing. There was nothing special about the room. No traps, no cameras, or anything that seemed to pose a threat. Just a bunch of filing cabinets that were collecting dust. Each one had a letter written on the top of each cabinet to help with the sorting. This made it easy for Hanabi to find the H cabinet while Konohamaru, who had nothing better to do, went to check out the U one. Hanabi began to look through the files until she saw one with the family name whited out and leaving only the name Hinata on it. Hanabi took a deep breath before taking the file out and opening it. Her pale eyes widened immediately. The parents' names had been completely whited out. This was shocking because no one was allowed to alter these documents without prior permission from the entire council. Normally, it was when a student from a high-ranking Gamely had done something wrong, and the family wished that there be no records of the incident. Hanabi had to wonder what was going on. "Oh, my Kami," yelled Konohamaru. "What is it?" asked Hanabi quickly as she turned towards her partner in crime. "Look," he said as he held up a picture he found in the Uzumaki file. The picture was that of a young girl with red hair wearing an orange and black jumpsuit with the sleeves missing. She was giving the camera a big, stupid grin while making the V for victory symbol. Hanabi blinked at first, thinking that it was a boy until she noticed that this girl was a bit more matured than other girls her age. "So, what am I looking at exactly?" asked Hanabi. "Boss has a sister," said Konohamaru. "I found this in his file." "Baka," scolded Hanabi. "Just look at that picture, it's so old it's starting to fade. Now keep quiet before we get caught." "Too late," said Irika as he appeared at the doorway. They both turned to face him and saw that he had several tick marks on his face. "Both of you get back to the classroom. We'll talk about your punishment later." With their heads lowered, the two of them handed what they had found to Irika and went back to the classroom. When the two of them got back to the classroom, they saw that the matches had already started up again and had been going on for a while. Time really flies when you're committing crimes. For those of you who blinked, Rock Lee has just defeated Akimichi Choji with a single kick, said Kodo in a bored tone. It seems like after Uzumaki-san's match, all the other matches have been less than epic. Well, it is kind of hard to compete against a guy who can destroy a wall with a single punch, said Yuri. Besides, there was the match between Temari and Tenten. Or what about when Nara Shikamaru defeated Kinyuta Dosu? Not enough blood in either one, said Kodo with another bored sigh. I thought that Tsurugi Misumi might have been able to put up more of a fight against Kankuro-san, but I was wrong. And the fight between Akado Yoroi and Aburame Shino was pointless. But I guess that Konoha is happy that Shino-san won. And neither of those fights had any blood in them. What's a girl got to do to get some blood? Up next we have Mitarashi Anko against Inuzuka Kiba, said Yuri as she made a bit of distance between her and her blood-crazy partner. Sadly for Anko-chan, it looks like this will be a hard fight to win, seeming that Inuzuka clan always fights with their canine partners. Not to mention that his stats are incredibly high. Should we add this to the list of other predictions that you got wrong? Asked Kodo with an evil smirk. All right, yelled Kiba as he jumped down to the arena floor. This'll be easy, right, Akamaru? The small dog on his head barked in agreement. What makes you say that? Asked Anko as she appeared right in front of him. Because guys are stronger than girls, said Kiba out of pure stupidity. He immediately regretted it as he felt all of the women's killer intent focused on him. Kin had pulled out her scythe and was glaring at him with hate in her eyes. Temari looked like she was ready to throw her fan at him. Hinata and Kurenai looked most, let's skip over them because they're just too pissed for words. Even Kodo and Yuri looked angry, and they weren't even fighters. Akamaru buried his face with his paws in an attempt to hide from the women's anger. Kick his ass, Anko-chan, cheered Naruto. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but you can do it, Anko, cheered Hinata. Kiba spun around and looked at Hinata in confusion. But I'm your teammate, he shouted as he pointed at her. You should be cheering for me. Why would she do that after you make a comment like the one you did? Asked Anko with a deadpan expression. Kiba just turned around to face Anko once again. Fine then, he said. I'll just have to prove it when I beat you to the ground. He would have said more, but Hate moved to stand in between them. All right, said Hate. Cough, Hajime. Hey, Akamaru, said Kiba with a grin. Why don't you lie down for a moment? I can handle her by myself. Akamaru nodded and jumped to the ground. The dog then walked until he was far enough away, so he wouldn't be in the way, walked in a circle, and then laid on the ground. I don't need any favors, asshole, said Anko as an eyebrow twitched. Believe me when I say that underestimating me will be a big mistake. Let's see if that's true, said Kiba with a feral grin. He then made several hand signs and yelled out, Shikyaku no Jutsu. As soon as he said that, Kiba shifted into a quadrupedal stance as his fangs and nails became longer and pointed, causing him to resemble a feral beast. Kiba then shot at Anko, who pumped some extra chakra into her legs so that she could jump up to avoid the attack. Kiba saw this and reacted quickly to stop and jump into the air after her. That's when he noticed Anko reach for the bindings that were tied to her waist. He then saw her reach for what looked like the handle of a sword that was hidden by her jacket and pulled on it. Instantly, her Yurumi unraveled and lashed out at Kiba. Kiba managed to twist his body in midair to avoid the attack and his target as well. He landed on all fours and then dodged left to avoid being pierced from above. Anko landed on the ground a moment later and didn't let up her own assault. Once again, she lashed out at Kiba, who moved to his right this time. He thought he had nothing to worry about until he heard Akamaru warn him that the blade was coming back. Kiba looked behind him and saw that the blade had twisted like a snake to come at him once again, only this time from behind. Kiba once again dodged the attack, but only by a very narrow margin. It looks like I'll have to get serious now, said Kiba as he got up and reached into his pocket. He then pulled out a soldier pill and tossed it to Akamaru, who ate it. A moment later, the dog turned a dark red color and then jumped onto his master's back. Jujin Bunshin, he yelled as Akamaru vanished in a cloud of smoke just to emerge as another Kiba. Great, said Anko with a sigh. Now I have to look at two ugly mugs. At least you could have changed him to look a bit better. Joke all you want, replied Kiba. Let's see how you do against this. Shikyaku no Jutsu. Now both Kibas charged at Anko, who once again lashed out at them. But this time they were ready and avoided the attack with ease and still managed to plow into Anko, sending her crashing into a wall. Anko managed to get back to her feet and whipped the blood from her face before having to dodge the double assault once again. Shit, thought Anko as she continued to dodge the attacks. They're moving too fast for me to hit with my sword, and I doubt I can trick them again with its features. Now prepare for our ultimate attack, roared Kiba as he and Akamaru began to spin around. Gut skull. Kiba and his partner then became like drills spinning in the air so fast that no one could see them. All Anko could see were the dirt and other materials spinning around and around until they both hit her, one from in front and one from behind. Anko then fell to the ground while the two Kibas landed on their feet. Looks like I was a little too rough on you. You may have been one of the strongest and scariest girls back at the academy, but that was then and this is now. I bet you can't even stand up right now. Shut up, snarled Anko as she got on her hands and knees. Excuse me? Asked Kiba with a laugh. You heard me, said Anko as she slowly got back on her feet. She swayed for a moment and then looked at Kiba with the scariest look she could give. I said, shut up. I've heard enough of your barking and I have to listen to it anymore. I'll make sure you get neutered. Whatever, said Kiba as he turned to the ref. Just call the match already. She can barely stand up anymore. I'll call cough when I decide cough, too, replied Hate. Kiba shook his head. Looks like I'll have to beat you down some more, he said. Gut skull. Once again, the twin drill came at Anko, who stood her ground as she made several hand signs. She then took a deep breath and yelled, Dokujiri, as a purple fog came out of her mouth. Both the Kibas passed through it, and when they came out of it missed Anko and landed on the ground. Akamaru returned to his original form and began to cough violently along with his master. Kiba looked red-faced and was sweating like he had a fever or something. He looked like he wanted to say something, but couldn't as he was coughing too much. "In case you're wondering what happened," said Anko as she began to breathe hard, "you just flew into a cloud of poison. Just be glad that you were only in there of a second and inhaled the little that you did. Had you stayed longer, you wouldn't be able to give me that nasty look right now. But then again, your face does look a little nasty no matter what. I declare Mitarashi cough. Anko the winner," declared Hate as medics burst into the scene. "All right," yelled Yuri. "Go girl power." "Well, we can all agree that that match was defiantly more exciting than some of the others we have had to endure," said Kodo. "Wish." Anko-chan had bloodied up Kiba-san a bit, but the poison was a nice touch. "And now we have only 3 contestants remaining. Who will be the next pair to fight? And what will happen to the last Chunin hopeful? Will he get a free pass, or will he have to fight someone who has already fought?" "And the next pair has been decided," said Yuri. "Up next we have Sex versus Gaara." "This is it," yelled Sex as he turned towards Naruto. "I'm glad we didn't fight in the prelims. I want the honor of defeating you in the finals. It'll be a much grander stage, and we can both go all out." "That's fine with me," said Naruto with a grin. "And I'll be glad to kick your sorry ass once again." "Oh yeah," demanded Sex as he got in Naruto's face. "Yes," said Naruto as he did the same. "Your cough opponent is waiting," said Hate. Both Sex and Naruto turned to look at the arena floor and saw that Gaara was waiting on the ground with his arms folded. "All right," said Sex as he jumped over the railing. As soon as he landed, Sex whipped out the Titan blade and took his stance. Gaara said nothing, nor did he move. Yet, there was movement on his gourd as the cork seemed to pop out all on its own. "Well, you both seem ready," said Hate. "Hajime, I'll end this quickly," said Sex as he charged at Gaara. "Sechster Angriff." With that, Sex leapt into the air and began his series of twists and turns with his body and his blade as he shot towards Gaara. But as soon as the blade was several feet from Gaara, the red-haired Nin sand erupted out of his gourd and moved to block the blade. Sex, who kept a firm grip on the Titan blade's handle, twisted his body so he could give Gaara a spinning kick. Once again, the sand blocked the attack. Not seeing any other options, Sex landed on the ground and pulled back to create some distance between the two. "I'm waiting," said Gaara with the same bored look. Sex then seemed to vanish and then appeared behind him, ready to strike. The speed was impressive but not fast enough as the sand moved to block the attack. Sex jumped up and tried to get an aerial assault in. However, the sand grabbed the Titan blade and flung Sex away like he was a toy. Sex landed on his feet and skidded a bit while not taking his eyes off his enemy. "Bastard hasn't moved an inch," said Sex in a low voice. "I tried to see if that sand defense and any weak point or time lag or anything, but it was all automatic and moves faster than me. And he hasn't done any hand signs that I've seen." Sex then grinned, causing Gaara's eyes to widen for a moment. "This'll be fun." "Baka," said Gaara calmly. "You will meet the same fate as all the others who have faced me. Death." He then heard a gasp and turned to look at that person. His eyes widened when he saw Haku with her hands over her mouth. A feeling of dread filled him like nothing he had ever felt before. He began to wonder if she hated him now and why he cared if she liked him or not. Thoughts in his head became more and more confusing to him until he grabbed his own head. Sex watched as Gaara had his internal mental battle while wondering what the hell was going on with him. Gaara was looking away from his opponent and staring at some girl with black hair and chocolate-colored eyes. "Okay," thought Sex. "I better do something and fast before the Sandman remembers that I'm still here." With that said, or at least thought, Sex began to spin the Titan blade in front of him until it was just a blur. "Baraka Tatsumaki," he yelled as a black mass of air shaped like a drill came rushing at Gaara. Gaara's head snapped back at Sex just a moment before the sand blocked the air mass that had been flying towards him. However, the power in that attack was great, and so more sand was needed to completely block it all. "Surprise," said Sex, causing Gaara's eyes to widen even more than before. Sex was behind him, and the Baraka Tatsumaki was just now starting to fade. Without saying another word, Sex slashed at Gaara's left side with enough force that Sex believed that he could have sliced through him. Instead, Gaara went flying to the side until his sand caught up with him and then gently set him on the ground. "What the hell?" yelled Sex as he pointed at Gaara. "I had it all figured out. Keep your sand distracted and then attack you. And why aren't you even bleeding?" It was then that Sex noticed that the area where he had attacked was all cracked and slowly repairing itself. "This is my absolute defense," said Gaara calmly. "Even if you get past my primary defense, Suna no Tate, you still have to get past my Suna no Yoroi. I will say this. I had to use even more chakra than normal in order to keep it from completely breaking. You have come closer to harming me than anyone else." "Gee, what an honor," spat Sex as he began to the Titan Blade once again. "But I won't lose to some coward who relies completely on defense." Kakijiden, like when he fought against Naruto, the Titan Blade seemed to catch on fire, and due to the fact that it was still spinning, it looked like a flaming disc. Sex charged at Gaara and began to slash at him over and over again. Each time Gaara's sand moved to block it and was melted by the flames. It was only a little at a time, but eventually Gaara had no more sand left. Sex was now panting in front of Gaara, who seemed to be unconcerned. The flames on the Titan Blade were gone due to a lack of chakra. Sex gritted his teeth as he stared back at his seemingly uncaring opponent. "This punk still thinks he can win," he thought. "He's out of his mind. His body looks extremely frail, probably due to that defense of his. I doubt this coward can even take a real blow." "Now die," shouted Sex as he lunged at Gaara. Then something happened that changed everything. The gourd on Gaara's back seemed to explode as Gaara yelled out, "Sabaka Q," and then the sand shot at Sex as grabbing his right arm. Sex quickly moved the Titan Blade to his left hand before the sand completely stopped him and covered his entire arm. "Pathetic," said Gaara calmly with an arm raised and palm open. "Now I will make you pay for trying to erase my existence. Sabaka's so-so." The sand was about to start to implode when Sex did something no one expected. Using his left arm, he moved the Titan Blade and cut off his entire right arm before the sand imploded it. Blood poured from the wound, and Sex was screaming in pain. But there was still an insane grin on his face. "Why did you do that?" It was all Gaara could think of to say. "I'd rather cut my own arm off than let you do anything with it," panted Sex. He then dropped the Titan Blade and began to hold his wound. Gaara just stood there for a moment and stared at Sex. He thought about killing him, but he could still feel Haku's eyes on him. It felt like he was being judged by her or something. He didn't know what to make of these feelings. So with a sigh, Gaara did something that made his siblings gasp. Gaara had turned away from an opponent without killing him. "Winner of this cough matches Gaara," said Hate. "Right, go on, Sex." Hate looked at Sex and shook his head. "Sorry, but you can't go on cough anymore," said Hate. "You literally cough did this to yourself." "I know," said Sex weakly as he looked at his severed and crushed arm. "I just want him to kill me. I've lost and will never be able to be an effective shinobi with this one good arm. That arm is useless now. So please, just kill me." Sex closed his eye and waited for a blow of some kind. He heard several voices just before someone grabbed his shirt and yanked him up. Sex opened his eye and saw it was Naruto. "What the hell's wrong with you?" demanded Naruto. "Didn't you tell me that you would keep coming after me as long as you lived? Where is that determination now?" "You little," snarled Sex. "So what if you only got one arm?" said Naruto as he pulled Sex closer to him. "You can still make a fist and punch people. And you still have legs to kick with and a head-to-head, but I guess you're too stupid to." Naruto was unable to finish due to Sex following Naruto's advice and giving the blonde a head, but "Asshole," swore Sex as he fell back to the ground. But somehow his energy seemed to be returning even with the heavy blood loss. "You couldn't let me have my moment. When I get back from the hospital, I'll make sure that they have a bed waiting for you." With that, Sex passed out and was then moved onto a stretcher. "Damn it," swore Naruto as he rubbed his head. "I can't believe he still made time to threaten me before he passed out. Looks like I'll just have to pay him back later." "Later," said Hate. "Oh, and thanks, for volunteering for the final match." "Nanny," yelled Naruto as his eyes became dish plates. "Here we are," announced Kodo. "My number one favorite, Uzumaki Naruto, will be fighting for a second time in the prelims against Abomizaku. But before all of you go placing those bets, it seems like the Hokage has decided that Naruto-kun will not be able to use his Senpuken. Apparently, they don't want the building to collapse on them. Cowards! This will be a great disadvantage to him, seeing how much he relied on it during his first fight, said Yuri. I bet it must use a lot of chakra. Zaku stood in front of Naruto with both arms in a sling. Yet he had a smug look on his face. After hearing the new rules that the Hokage had made just for this match, Zaku felt sure he could win, especially since he had a little surprise ready just for his match. Hajime, yelled Hate. Zaku sprung into action as soon as he heard that. In half a second, he had pulled out both his arms out of the sling and yelled Zankaha, sending a supersonic burst of air flying at our hero. The attack seemed to hit him, and smoke filled the room. When it cleared, Naruto was nowhere to be found. Zaku looked left and right while holding his arms in front of him, so he could use his attack again. Imagine his surprise when Naruto seemed to fall out of the sky and land right between his arms. Naruto then grabbed both arms with his hand and held on tightly. "How the hell did you survive?" demanded Zaku. "Please, I could see that attack coming a mile away," said Naruto with a smirk. "In order for you to use that attack, you have to keep your arms straight and facing your target. And you were so far away that it gave me plenty of time to create a Kage Bunshin and then use Kawarimi no Jutsu." "That's all very impressive," said Zaku with a smirk. "But you are overlooking something." "True. I can't attack you like this, but neither can you. And once you let go of my arms, I'll use all my power to turn you into dust." At that, Naruto smirked. "What are you smiling about?" "I think you're the one who's overlooking something," replied Naruto. With that, Naruto began to focus hard to use what he learned during his wind manipulation training. And before Zaku knew what hit him, Naruto had cut off both of his arms with pure nature manipulation. "Winner, Naruto," said Hate over the screams of Zaku. "Well, that's it for this time. Who will be facing who in the final matches? How will they be spending their time? Will Kakashi actually train Naruto and Anko? What will happen to Sex? Review, or I won't tell you. Chapter 21. Okay, I'll admit that I rushed the ending in the last chapter, but I had to get to class. And after writing 10 pages in one day, I was tired. Hopefully this chapter will reveal some things that you will all enjoy. I can't believe that Naruto got captured and is now having his chakra sucked up. Right now I can only see 3 things happening next. 1 is Pain leaving the village now that he is wheat he came for followed. 2 is that we see some Kyuubi chakra again. 3 is that Hinata rushes over to help Naruto, since she is so close until those 2 old toads can use their Jinjutsu. I was kind of hoping Naruto would have changed into a girl just for the laughs. Just imagine Pain's reaction to seeing a naked girl flying towards him. Let's rock. The room was silent as the de-armed Otonin was taken out of the room. Everyone except for Hinata, Anko, and Haku kept a watchful eye on Naruto. While it had been a stunning display of skill for the 2 other wind users in the room, it made everyone else kind of freak out. Kurenai was left wondering what Kakashi had done to make Naruto improve so much. Asuma was simply impressed that Naruto could do something at that level for his age. Guy was shedding tears of joyful youth at how Naruto had helped a foreign shinobi. And let us all be glad that he didn't ask Naruto about how he got his skills, because if Naruto had, Guy would have begun to shout about how youthful Naruto was. All the other genins, except for Temari and Gaara, were just freaked out. Back at the station, Koto had a look of utter bliss on her face. It was hard to describe. Her eyes had a dreamy look to them, and there was drool coming out of her mouth. If having your favorite meal was a 1 and doing it is a 10, then this would be a 9.9. "Akoto-chan," said Yuri nervously. "You're starting to scare me." Now all of the genins were lined up in front of the elder Hokage and several of the examiners. The old man was proud to see so many Konohanins advance to the final round. This would show the strength of their village not only to their clients, but to the rest of the village as well. And it did his heart some good to see that Naruto and Anko were 2 of them. "You have all done well," said Sarutobi after a moment. "Now that we have all seen how you fare when you have no idea what your enemies are capable of, We would like to see how you respond when you know what they can do. In 1 month's time, all of the appropriate parties will be contacted and given time so that they can reach the village to watch you in the final round of the exam. You may use this time to prepare however you see fit. If you wish to sit back and relax, that is your choice. If you wish to train to better prepare yourself for your opponents, you may do so. In fact, I would highly recommend it. The format of the final exam will be similar to what you just went through. The exam will take the form of a tournament. However, that doesn't mean that there will be one winner. In fact, even if you lose in the first round, you might be promoted. We will be watching you fight to see if you have the qualities that make a chunin. The more you fight, the more chances you have to show that you have those skills. Now, we will be handing out ballets in order to... Hold on 1 second, came a man's voice from the back. Everyone turned around and saw a small black cat enter the room. The cat then vanished only to reappear on the Hokage's shoulder. The cat then whispered in his ear, causing Sarutobi's eyes to widen in shock. I'm afraid something has come up, said the Hokage as he cleared his throat. Once we come to a decision on the matter, we will contact you with the lineup. Please expect it to come in at least 3 days from now. Yuichi-san will escort you all back to the village quickly, so you can begin making preparations. With that, he and the rest of the examiners vanished from the room. You heard it from the Hokage himself, ladies and gentlemen, said Kodo as she got back into her grove. In 3 days, we will have a lineup for the Chunin exam. This is going to be a bloodbath for sure. Please don't get too excited, said Yuri as she sweat dropped. As for us, we will be making our way there to cover the fights live and give you live interviews with the contestants. However, these fights won't be free and you will have to order it. Sorry. Jiraiya let a grin slip as he got up off his seat. He knew that Orochimaru had plans for that village. In fact, he was going there to help stop whatever his old teammate was planning. But now he had another reason, to start training his godchild. This was going to be exciting, that was for sure. If you will please follow me, said Yuruchi as the cat motioned them to follow. Hold on, said Kankuro. Shouldn't we have a real guide or something? I mean, you're just a cat. At that, Yuruchi chuckled and let out an evil smile. Hinata shook her head to tell Yuruchi no, but it was too late. I see, said the cat. Well, my dear little genin, I guess I had better show you my true form then. Yuruchi's body began to glow, and smoke began to circle the cat's body as it began to change into a more human one. The black fur turned into tan skin, and purple hair appeared on the head. And then, it was done, and several of the guys had major nosebleeds as they stared at the naked form of Yuruchi. I just love seeing the way people react when I reveal my true form. They always accept I'm a guy because of the deep voice. They're not reacting that way because they thought you were a man, said Hinata. It's because you're naked. But clothing is just confining, said Yuruchi with a pout. Naruto and Anko just smirked as they tried not to laugh at their friend's embarrassment. Here I am, announced Sarutobi as he entered the council's chambers. He moved quickly into his seat and sat in between Hamaru and Koharu. As he sat, he pulled out his pipe and lit it. The rest of the council, which was made of several of the founding clans and several civilians, sat down. I have just been made aware that Orochimaru has left us a message about the Chunin exam. Hi, said a civilian councilman. One of this village's jonin was found dead just a short while ago. A message was carved on his back, and the body was laid out near Training Area 44. The message demands that Uchiha Sasuke be allowed to compete in the final round of the exam and to go against Gaara first, or else he will destroy the village. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied like this, said Hayashi. Right now, the entire shinobi world is watching us, and on live television. If we do as he says, then the world will see our weakness, and we will lose face. Better to lose face than to lose lives, said Nara Shikaka lazily. At least that's the way I see it. Look at it this way. If we say no, then he will attack. But if we go along with it, Orochimaru might keep his word. I know it's not very likely, but we should do everything in our power to avoid a conflict like this one. Coward, growled a Haruno. You're only saying that because your son made it to the final part of the exam. At that, Shikaka blinked. He's in the Chunin exam? He asked, causing everyone to face fault. How could any father be that clueless? Both sides have merit, said the Hokage as he took a drag. I too wish not to show any weakness at such a critical time. However, we know what kind of man he is. He's been planning this for a while now and is being very careful with his plans. All we know is that they involve Uchiha Sasuke in some way. The mark on his neck is proof of that. I agree with Sarutobi on this, said Hamaru. We shall have to allow Uchiha Sasuke to compete in the final exam. We could tell the public that an outside party interfered with the exam, said Koharu with a nod. We needn't give out the details and give a perfect excuse to allow the Uchiha to compete. Now wait just a moment, said Sarutobi. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. There are still other factors to consider. We should talk to our allies and Suna about this as well. They have a right to know what is going on since Orochimaru wants one of their shinobi to fight Sasuke. I agree with Hokage-sama, said Danzo, shocking everyone. No one thought they would live to see the day when either one would agree with each other. Hell must have frozen over. He then stood up and turned to face Sarutobi, who stared back. Since we are dealing with Orochimaru and his Odo Nins, we will need not only superior strength, but numbers as well. After we take out Orochimaru and whatever forces he plans on using against us, the two of us will be able to destroy his village and divide the land up equally between our two villages. At least for now. Once again, we are getting ahead of ourselves, said Sarutobi. We will send out a message to Suna to inform them of the situation and then wait for a reply. Once we have received one, we will make our final decision on the matter and go from there. Until then, we are to act like nothing is wrong as to not alert the public. However, I think we shoulder schedule a few emergency evacuation drills just to be on the safe side. Meeting adjourned. Oh, and Hayashi, could you stay behind for a moment? With that, all members of the council got up and left the room until it was just Hayashi and Sarutobi. The Hokage calmly took a drag ass. Hayashi waited impatiently for the old man to say what he wanted. He was a busy man with things to do. Finally, the head of the Hyuga family spoke. What do you wish to talk about, Hokage-sama? Asked Hayashi in a respectful tone. Something has been troubling me, said Sarutobi calmly as he blew a ring of smoke into the air. Neji seemed to think that he had a chance of leaving the branch family. Why is that? Clan matters, said Hayashi. I will admit that we had a talk before the start of the exam. I had told him that if he did well, then I would look into having him placed within the main house. However, he did not live up to my expectations as he clearly lost in the preliminary round. I see, said Sarutobi. That is very generous of you. Very unlike you as well. With that, Sarutobi took another drag. Yes, very unlike you. Well, please be aware that I will be keeping an eye on Neji for a bit. Some of the things he said made me think that there was something more going on, and he had better be in good condition to help fight Odo when the time comes. We will need every able body available, so I don't need you causing him unnecessary harm with that seal of yours. Hayashi gritted his teeth for a moment. The Hokage was beginning to suspect something, but at the moment all he had were his suspicions and no time to really check up on them. And for that, Hayashi was thankful for Orochimaru. All Hayashi could do now was to lie low until this blew over. That or the old fool died. Very well, said Hayashi as he fought hard to stay calm. Let us hope that he recovers quickly. Damn, this bed is itchy, whined Sex. It was the next morning, and Sex had been patched up and given a blood transfusion. He had to admit that the medics of this village were pretty good at what they did. They were able to do their job quickly, which was essential in the shinobi world where you had to get back onto your feet quickly. Plus, all he had lost was his arm. He just wished they used a different fabric softener when they did the laundry. It could be worse, said Naruto. Sex turned his head over to the side and saw Naruto sitting in the chair next to his bed. When did you get here? Demanded Sex. A little while ago, said Naruto. The twins are right now trying on nurses' outfits, so I let myself in. Sex grunted. Well, that's just perfect, said Sex. If this were a mission, I would be dead right now. He paused for a moment, as if to think about what he was going to say next. Listen, Kaze Shu. Don't you dare lose from here on out. As soon as I get back on my feet, I'm going to restart my training so I can function with only one arm. And when I'm done, we're going to have that rematch. Hi, said Naruto as he waved it off like it was nothing. But it did feel nice to have a rival like Sex. In some ways, they were so much alike. They trained hard in order to prove themselves and believed that the only real way to fight was head-on regardless of what others thought. In the back of Naruto's mind, he was sure that if they had been born in the same village, they would have been friends. Don't wave me off like that, damn it, swore Sex. Listen, I'll only say this once. We're back, yelled Elf and Zolf. They were both wearing white nurses' outfits and were carrying a large bout of medicine and needles. Time to play doctor. What the hell? Shouted Sex. I was about to say something really profound, and you two had to ruin the moment. And this isn't a game, you numbskulls. Just what is wrong with you two?